Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales. Chapter 54-25. What Kong Xinmu and the others did not know was that they had just applied for these 8 spots. Originally, the military had not agreed. But, because Kong Xinmu had gotten first place among the class 6 disciples. So, people saw his potential. The first place among the class 6 disciples had the strength of at least the 4th level of the transcendent God realm, and could even fight against the 5th level. Such a powerful young man had a limitless future. Since that was the case, why couldn't they get a few spots? Originally, they had followed the rules. But since Kong Xinmu was so talented, and they could sell a favor to Emperor Shi, the leaders of the Dragon God's military were happy to do so. However, this made some people unhappy. Some of the Dragon Gods had been injured in the relic and were temporarily recuperating outside. So, they naturally got the spots to enter next month. But, this time, Kong Xinmu's arrival squeezed out 8 spots. Some people did not care. After all, their injuries had not fully recovered. But some people had recovered and were planning to enter the relic again to explore. In the end, their spots were squeezed out. How could they not be angry? It would be good if they could find something. If not, it would be a waste of a spot. Someone snorted coldly. They naturally did not welcome the arrival of Kong Xinmu and the others. However, they would not rush up to cause trouble at this time. They could only sneer behind their backs. After all, they were old, but they still cared about their reputation. If Kong Xinmu and the others could really find something, wouldn't they look stupid if they rushed up to cause trouble? Moreover, they knew that the military had already decided on something. They could not change the outcome even if they caused trouble now. They would let Kong Xinmu and the others go in. It'll be good if they don't die in there. That can't be, right? The leader seems to be the first among the class 6 disciples. At least he has the strength of the 4th or 5th level of the transcendent God realm. In the relic, does the stronger one is, the more useful it is? Use your brain. That's right. Experience is too important to explore this kind of relic. Without experience, even supreme experts might not find anything useful if they go in. They began to talk. Some people even speculated that Kong Xinmu and the others might leave a few of them in the relic forever. In other words, there would definitely be people dying in the relic. In the ruins, other races would attack them, especially the Talisman Water race and the Thousand-Winged Snake race. There were also some dangers from the relic itself that could take the lives of cultivators. Especially this relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. There were too many deadly traps in it, but what they didn't know was that in terms of experience, Kong Xinmu was much more qualified than all of them. Because there were 2 great gods hidden in his body. The consciousness of the demonic god ancestor and the primordial black dragon were not to be trifled with. They were once extremely powerful existences. They even knew the real body of Empress Nvua. His understanding of Emperor Nvua's inheritance was greater than anyone else's. How could ordinary people compare with him? Even if they explored this relic for 100 years, their understanding of Emperor Nvua couldn't match that of Kong Xinmu, or the ancestors of the demon god. And the experience of the ancestors of the demon god was Kong Xinmu's experience. There was basically no difference. Although they might not try their best to help Kong Xinmu get something, they would definitely remind Kong Xinmu when he was in danger. After all, if something happened to Kong Xinmu, they wouldn't feel good either. In the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. Now there were more than 1,000 cultivators exploring it. There were 50 people entering the relic every month, but it didn't mean that each race could only have 50 people in the relic. It should be noted that many people didn't come out of the relic. They might even stay in it for a few months or even a few years. Therefore, when Kong Xinmu and the others entered the relic, they were all mentally prepared. Before coming here, each of them had read the information about the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance and the progress of the Dragon God clan's exploration of the relic, so they had a general idea about it. They had a relatively clear idea about what would appear in the relic. Let's go. Kang Xinmu led the others directly into the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. They didn't communicate much with others, because the exploration of the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance depended on their individual strength, or the strength of a team. It was useless to communicate with others. It was enough to read the information in advance. The 8 of them entered from the front entrance. The entire relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance at this stage had 4 entrances, 1 front entrance and 3 side entrances, located in different directions of the abyss. Kang Xinmu and the others directly entered from the front entrance. The difference was that if they entered from the front entrance, they needed to challenge a demon statue of Emperor Nvuo. After challenging the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo, each of them would have a layer of aura of Emperor Nvuo. Many people thought that the aura of Emperor Nvuo was the key to open the central and inner parts of Emperor Nvuo's inheritance. Only when they had enough high-level aura of Emperor Nvuo could they have a chance to open the central part of Emperor Nvuo's inheritance. Of course, in the entire relic, there were not many auras of Emperor Nvuo that could be obtained. As a result, until now, no one had been able to explore the central part of Emperor Nvuo's inheritance. Basically, everyone who had read the information and entered Emperor Nvuo's inheritance for the first time would choose to enter from the front and challenge the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo. From there, they could obtain a layer of Emperor Nvuo's aura. It was not easy to obtain Emperor Nvuo's aura. This was the simplest method that was known to the public. Of course, not everyone could defeat the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo. The combat power of the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo was almost at Transcendent God level 3. Of course, this was only the combat power of a single person. If more people challenged it, the combat power of the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo would increase correspondingly. When the 8 of them entered together, the combat power of the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo was almost at Transcendent God level 5. Very few people would enter together with 8 people to challenge the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo because the success rate was extremely low. Even until now, there was no precedent of a team of more than 5 people challenging and defeating the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo. Every cultivator only had 1 chance to challenge the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo. Everyone should have read the relevant information, right? The demon statue of Emperor Nvuo is at Transcendent God level 5. It won't be a problem if we work together. I'll hold it back from the front. You guys attack from the side. Try to defeat the demon statue of Emperor Nvuo in the shortest time possible. When entering the relic of Emperor Nvuo's inheritance, Kang Xinmu had made arrangements directly. It was even a strategy that he had thought of before coming here. His defense ability was the strongest. Chapter 54-26. The 8 of them stepped into the front gate of the Emperor Nvuo's inheritance relic. An ancient aura greeted them. It even had the smell of ancient dust, which made them feel the lingering charm of history. It was dark all around them. First, they came to a stone-walled passageway. The stone walls on both sides were engraved with many snake statues. These snake statues did not look strange. Instead, they looked extremely sacred. They were all worshipping in the same direction. Soon, the stone walls on both sides of Kang Xinmu and the others retreated. Then, the surrounding terrain suddenly changed. Countless stone walls rotated and changed, forming a sealed stone-walled hall together. This huge enclosed hall was made up of stone walls from top to bottom, left to right, and each stone was hundreds of feet long. Dozens of stones were put together to form a spacious stone hall. Torches slowly appeared on the stone walls around the hall. After these torches appeared, they gradually lit up the entire stone-walled hall. After the torches were ignited, a huge snake-shaped statue appeared in front of them in the center of the stone wall. This statue was of a woman with a human body and a snake tail. Her entire body was in a petrified state. "Get ready," Kang Xinmu growled. He could tell that this was the Emperor Wa Demon statue. It was also the most crucial stage in exploring the Emperor Wa's inheritance relic. Many people who explored the Emperor Wa's inheritance relic had defeated this Emperor Wa Demon statue. When 3 people formed a team, the Emperor Wa Demon statue's strength would not increase. Therefore, it was basically the 3 of them who worked together to defeat the 3rd-level transcendent god Emperor Wa Demon statue. From this perspective, it could be seen how powerful the cultivators who could explore the Emperor Wa Demon statue's inheritance relic were. After all, they were all at the peak of the Dragon Emperor level. It was extremely rare for 3 people at the peak of the Emperor realm to defeat a 3rd-level transcendent god realm in the entire Dragon God's world. However, only those who had reached this level were qualified to explore the Emperor Wa Demon statue's inheritance relic. It could be said that among the 5 major clans at the peak of the Emperor realm, almost half of them had come to the Emperor Wa Demon statue's inheritance relic. After all, it was a new, intermediate, permanent relic. It was more likely to gain something from it. Then, Kang Xinmu and the others all transformed into dragons. When the black dragon appeared, Kang Xinmu's devouring dragon flew straight toward the giant Emperor Wa Demon statue in the center. The entire stone-walled hall was extremely spacious. Not to mention the Dragon Emperor, even a supreme divine dragon would be able to fly freely in this place. Kang Xinmu directly rushed over. Mo Ye followed closely behind him. However, Mo Ye did not transform into a dragon and maintained her human form. Her veiled face appeared extremely mysterious. However, the natural energy within her body had already begun to gather and she was ready to strike at any time. Yi Yim transformed into a lone stealth killer dragon and disappeared into the stone hall. He decided to hide and observe the situation. He would appear when the opportunity presented itself and deal a fatal blow to his opponent. According to the information, when Emperor Demon challenged Emperor, the Emperor Demon Emperor God, the Demon Wa Demon could. According to Emperor, Demon of the Emperor Demon, the Dragon of, which, Emperor the Emperor of the Demon Emperor Dragon. The 4 of them were not weak, but they stood at the back and only planned to support Kang Xinmu. After all, the Emperor Wa Demon statue at the 5th-level transcendent god realm was not something they could resist. If they rushed forward, they would only cause trouble for Kang Xinmu. After all, the 5th-stage transcendent god Emperor Wa Demon statue was not something that they could defend against. If they were to forcefully charge forward, they would be causing trouble for Jiang Xinwu. If they died here, they would really die. It was different from the trial in the Dragon Soul Holy Tower. If they died here, they would really die. It was different from the trial in the Dragon Soul Holy Tower. Therefore, Jiang Xinwu directly took action to prevent the Demon Empress Enviwa Demon statue from killing the others. Gu Xinyue felt a little helpless. Her nightmare draconic powers didn't seem to be of much use at this time, so she didn't go up to cause trouble. Instead, she turned into a dragon and followed beside Ran and the others. The 8 of them did their jobs, and the battle began. Then, the Emperor Wa Demon statue in the center suddenly broke out of its petrified state. The statue with a human body and a snake tail seemed to come to life. The female statue's eyes locked onto Kang Xinmu, who was the closest to her. The next moment, countless stone pillars suddenly appeared on the path that Kang Xinmu was flying over and stabbed at him from below. Chi! 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 Countless stone pillar spikes swept toward Kang Xinmu. Each spike could easily penetrate the defense of a 3rd-level transcendent god realm cultivator. Divine Strong Dragon Technique. Canopy of Despair. Jiang Xinwu's 2 defensive dragon martial skills were immediately displayed. At the same time, his dragon soldier Chen Xing switched to defensive war patterns. Combined with the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique's defensive stance, his defense reached its limit. Pfft! The sharp spikes of the stone pillar suddenly swept out, piercing towards Jiang Shenwu's black dragon body. However, they could not penetrate Kang Shinmu's Divine Strong Dragon Technique's defense. The Canopy of Despair was a defensive dragon technique wrapped around the god's shield. At this moment, it was directly destroyed by the stone pillar's spikes. However, the Divine Strong Dragon Technique's defense was still strong, and it directly blocked the opponent's attack. In the face of the first round of attacks, Kang Shinmu was not injured at all. All of you, pay attention to the spikes around you. According to the information, these spikes will always appear, and they will stab at anyone irregularly. Kang Shinmu could not help them block them one by one. Fortunately, there was a certain time when the spikes appeared, and they could all dodge in advance when they noticed the signs. It was worth noting that the earth spikes would not only come out from the ground, but also from the sides and even from the top of the head. During the whole battle with the Emperor Nviwa demon statue, Zhang Xian had to pay close attention to all directions. Otherwise, he would be killed if he was not careful. For dragon martial artists, it was not difficult to pay attention to the stone walls in several directions at the same time. The difficult part was to cooperate with each other to defeat the Emperor Wa demon statue. That was the most difficult part. Immediately after, Kang Shinmu flew toward the Emperor Wa demon statue. At the same time, the Emperor Wa demon statue lifted its stone arm and slapped down toward where Kang Shinmu was. The slap was so fast that it almost reached Kang Shinmu in the blink of an eye. Moreover, the power of the slap was also at level 3 of the Supreme God stage. If Kang Shinmu was hit by the slap, his entire divine dragon body would probably be smashed to the ground. Chapter 54-27. During the fierce battle with the Emperor Wa demon statue, the earth spikes were everywhere, each of which was powerful enough to penetrate the divine dragon body of a level 3 Supreme God expert. If it were the Talisman Water tribe, the Water God Shadow would also be easily penetrated by such earth spikes. After all, those who were challenging the Emperor Wa demon statue were only at the peak of the Dragon Emperor realm. At this moment, all 8 of them had surrounded the entire Emperor Wa demon statue. Attack the left arm of the demon statue. Seeing the movements of the Emperor Wa demon statue, Kang Shinmu immediately commanded. The Emperor Wa demon statue was actually not a whole body, but divided into several parts. Left arm, right arm, tail, body, and heart. It was divided into 5 parts, and the Emperor Wa demon statue would only be defeated if all 5 parts were destroyed. Only the tail part of the demon statue of Emperor Nviwa could be attacked continuously, because the earth spikes were created by the tail, which could threaten everyone on the spot. The other parts could only be attacked and the Emperor Wa demon statue launched an attack. For example, when the Emperor Wa demon statue attacked Kang Shinmu with its left arm, the others could take this opportunity to attack the left arm. But at this moment, the right arm of the Emperor Wa demon statue was petrified, and the defense of the petrified part was extremely strong. At least, it was not something that a Supreme God expert could break, therefore, they had to fight back when the Emperor Wa demon statue launched an attack. At this moment, when the Emperor Wa demon statue attacked Kang Shinmu with its left arm, Kang Shinmu's entire black dragon body was smashed down. Then, countless stone pillars and earth spikes sprang up from the ground. However, Kang Shinmu's black dragon body directly hid in an independent space at this moment. At the same time, the other people's attacks had already swept over. Ran Ran, Xiao Bai, Xiao Yuhua, and Liang Xiao directly launched attacks at the Emperor Wa demon statue's left arm. Although their combat strength was not very strong, the power of their dragon attack technique was not weak, at least comparable to that of Kang Shinmu. Kang Shinmu's attack dragon martial skill was still relatively weak compared to his other aspects. At this moment, the 4 of them attacked together, and a burst of fused power bombarded the left arm of the Empress Wa Demon statue. His left arm was instantly damaged to a certain extent. However, the Empress Wa Demon statue's defense was extremely strong and could not be defeated by such a round of attacks. Then, he retracted his left arm. Countless stone pillars suddenly sprang out of his body. It was a physical attack. However, the Emperor Wa Demon statue's body was covered with stone pillars and earth spikes. When dodging these attacks, it was extremely difficult to attack the Emperor Wa Demon statue's body at the same time. Kang Xinmu and the others retreated when the stone pillars and earth spikes on its body shot out. Next, his right arm struck out. This right arm didn't attack the cultivator closest to the golem, but the one furthest away. This time, the target was Moya. Despite being attacked, Moya didn't dodge at all. Her figure split into 2, then into 4. In just a short moment, she had split into more than 100 figures. More than 100 veiled girls spread out at this moment. Then, they condensed the force of nature and launched a counterattack against the right arm that was attacking them. As the right arm smashed down, several of the veiled girls' clones were hit and slammed to the ground. Then, countless stone pillars and earth spikes emerged from the ground and pierced through the veiled girls' clones. They turned into pure force of nature and dissipated. And the attack she launched, with just her strength alone, was actually able to create a power that was comparable to the attack launched by the 4 of them just now. It was obvious that Moya's force of nature was extremely powerful. Even though she was suppressed to the peak of the Dragon Emperor, she could still unleash an attack that was above the 3rd level of the Transcendent God Realm and instantly retracted the right arm. At the same time, Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin started attacking the tail of the Emperor Wa Demon statue. The petrified tail kept smashing the ground and even shot out stone pillars and earth spikes from the ceiling to attack the 8 of them. During this period, the petrified tail was always in a state where it could be attacked. Naturally, Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin wouldn't let go of such an opportunity and attacked the tail directly. Gu Xinyue's Nightmare Mirage Dragon wasn't only used for confusion, but also for deceleration. The petrified tail was extremely fast, but Gu Xinyue slowed it down with the talent of the Nightmare Mirage Dragon so that Yi Yin could attack it quickly. Yi Yin's attack power was also extraordinary. During the competition in the Dragon Soul Holy Tower, Jiang Shenwu already knew the attacking ability of this person. Moreover, after coming out, he could cultivate and improve many super divine dragon martial techniques. The cultivation of these super divine dragon martial techniques had improved his combat power by a large margin. He worked together with Gu Xinyue to attack the tail of the Emperor Wa Demon statue. The entire petrified tail was made up of a total of 13 stone bones. Soon, they smashed one of the stone bones into pieces. However, when the stone bone of the tail was smashed, everyone realized that the petrified tail's attack frequency increased. It kept smashing the ground, and every time it hit the ground, a stone pillar would shoot out from the ground and attack them. It seems that the more this tail is attacked, the faster the attack frequency. If it's just the 2 of us, I'm afraid the longer we go, the harder it will be to completely destroy the tail. We need more people to attack it together and destroy it as fast as possible. Everyone was aware of this. No wonder the tail could be attacked at any time when it was released. It was because the more they attacked the tail, the greater the danger they would face. Therefore, Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin gave up attacking the tail. Instead, they began to cooperate with the others. Left arm. Right arm. Body. They kept attacking the entire Emperor Wa Demon statue in coordination. Kang Xinmu had been resisting the frontal pressure. In particular, the attack speed of the Emperor Wa Demon statue's left arm was too fast. It kept waving and smashing. If it were someone else, they would have been exhausted. However, Kang Xinmu still seemed unaffected. After they attacked for a while, the eyes of the entire Emperor Wa demon statue suddenly lit up. "Watch out! Defend yourselves!" Kang Xinmu immediately reminded them. This was the preparation of the statue of Emperor Nwa to launch an all-round attack. When its eyes lit up with a faint purple light, the entire hall was suffused with purple light. Then, the entire statue of Emperor Nwa radiated purple light. This purple light swept out and directly enveloped everyone within it. At this time, everyone displayed their defensive dragon martial skills. Fortunately, none of the people present were too biased and had practiced quite a few defensive dragon martial skills. This attack was obviously at the level of a level 5 supreme god. Chapter 54-28. However, it would not be easy for the others to block the attack of a level 5 transcendent god. Although it was only one wave of attack, it was very likely that this wave of attack would kill everyone present. That was the most difficult part. Just because one person could block it did not mean that everyone could. However, since they had already read the information about the Emperor Wa demon statue, they had already anticipated its attack. Otherwise, they might have been caught off guard and would have been in trouble. When the Emperor Wa demon statue had first discovered the legacy of the Emperor Wa demon statue, it had killed many powerful dragon warriors and experts from 4 other races. Most of them had died in this wave of attack. If there were more people, it would be even more difficult. This was because if there were less than 3 people, it would not be too difficult for them to block the attack of a level 3 transcendent god. Now, Kang Xinmu and the others were facing the attack of a level 5 transcendent god. If it were not for a heaven-defying existence like Kang Xinmu, which peak dragon emperor would be able to block such a powerful attack? Naturally, Kang Xinmu did not encounter any problems. He easily blocked the attack this time. After all, the divine strong dragon technique, the despair canopy, the divine dragon tyrant body technique, and the formless weapon Chen Xing's defense had reached its peak. Moreover, he had devoured the power of the Emperor Wa demon statue in the previous battle, so his resistance to this power had increased. The others also had their own methods. Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin hid behind Emoya, while the remaining dozens of Emoya's female veiled clones released their own defensive barriers. The defensive power condensed, and the dozens of female veiled clones merged together to form an incomparably huge defensive umbrella, completely blocking the attack of the Emperor Wa demon statue. Emoya's protective umbrella prevented Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin from getting hurt. However, Emoya was not a dragon warrior after all. She had not transformed into a dragon. Therefore, in her human form, it was already very good that her defensive methods could help the 2 dragon warriors block the attack. She could not help the others. However, Ran Ran, Xiao Bai, and the other 2 also had their own means. The 4 of them teamed up and unleashed their defensive dragon martial technique together. Furthermore, with Ran Ran as the leader, she stood at the front to block the strongest attack. Ran Ran had cultivated a body-tempering dragon-type martial technique before. However, if she were to use the body of a divine dragon to take on a level 5 transcendent god's attack head-on, she would definitely not be able to take it. Fortunately, there were 3 other people's powers to strengthen her defense. Therefore, Ran Ran successfully withstood the attack from the demon statue of Emperor Nwa. The purple light slowly dissipated. The first round of attack by the demon statue of Emperor Nwa came to an end. However, what came next was even more difficult. They were still attacking. However, they knew that Emperor Nwa demon statue would launch a second attack soon, which would be more powerful than the first. It was getting more and more difficult for everyone to resist. Fortunately, with Kang Xinmu around, they destroyed the demon statue of Emperor Nwa rather quickly. Kang Xinmu resisted all the pressure head-on. Emoya was the furthest away, enduring the pressure from the right arm of the demon statue of Emperor Nwa. She could even counterattack when she was attacked. It had to be said that the 8 people in Kang Xinmu's team played their best role. The ones who destroyed the demon statue the most were Xiao Bai, Ran Ran, and the other 2. Without a doubt, when the 4 of them joined forces, their power had probably reached the level of a level 5 transcendent god. This was unbelievable to ordinary people. After all, each of them only had the power of a level 1 or level 2 transcendent god. However, when they joined forces, they were actually so powerful. This was because the 4 of them had also cultivated a set of dragon-type martial techniques, which were meant for the 4 of them to work together. This dragon-type martial technique was a dragon-type martial formation. At this moment, in the battle, the 4 of them activated this dragon-type martial formation. In the formation, the strength of the 4 of them was enhanced, and the combined power of the 4 of them was increased by several times. Their attacks quickly destroyed the left arm, body, and right arm of the demon statue of Emperor Enviwa. Before long, these 3 parts of the demon statue of Emperor Enviwa were riddled with holes. Almost half of it was destroyed. At this moment, the second attack of the demon statue of Emperor Enviwa finally arrived. At this time, Kang Xinmu had already used his strongest defense. Moreover, he was standing in front of Xiao Bai, Ran Ran, and the other 2. Kang Xinmu had helped them resist the power of this attack. Only a little of the attack reached Xiao Bai and the other 2. Kang Xinmu had taken most of the power alone. As for Kang Xinmu, he had taken the attack of 2 or 3 people. This caused a large portion of his canopy of despair and the god's shield around his divine dragon body to be destroyed. The remaining small portion couldn't even maintain his defense. However, he had resisted the attack in the end. As for Emoya, Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin had cancelled their divine dragon forms and returned to their human forms. This reduced the angle of Emoya's defense. Similarly, this allowed her protective umbrella technique to protect all 3 of them. The protective power was much stronger than before. The smaller the range of the protective umbrella, the stronger the defense. With Emoya's protection, as long as Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin returned to their human forms every time, they did not have to worry about the next 2 or 3 attacks. After the 3rd attack, the attack of the demon statue of Emperor Enviwa would reach the 6th level of the Transcendent God stage. At this level, it was difficult for Kang Xinmu to resist the attack head-on. He had to use some tricks. However, the demon statue of Emperor Enviwa was almost destroyed. Its left arm and right arm were almost completely destroyed. It was close to being unable to release any attack. Its body was also riddled with holes. More than half of it was damaged. Only its heart and tail were left. They were almost intact. When the demon statue releases its earth spikes, attack its body with all your might. Only by destroying its body can we expose its heart and attack it. The demon statue's heart was the source of energy for the purple attack. When his eyes glowed with a purple light, his heart would beat, and the purple light would be released wildly in all directions, exploding with an attack. Kang Xinmu and the others had already taken 2 attacks. Before the 3rd attack, Kang Xinmu and the others finally joined forces and shattered the demon statue of Emperor Enviwa's body. Its heart floated in the air with a faint purple light. Chapter 54-29. One had to have a strategy to defeat the Emperor Wa demon statue. The current strategy was equivalent to a strategy. The Emperor Wa demon statue's attack pattern was fixed, and so was the method to defeat it. As long as one had a certain amount of information, one could do it. Of course, having the information was one thing, and having the ability to do it was another. Many people couldn't defeat it even if they knew how to do it. Because their combat power was too weak. Kang Xinmu and the others were all at the peak of the Dragon Emperor, but each of them had at least the combat power of a level 1 transcendent god. Kang Xinmu even had the combat power of a level 5 transcendent god. However, it might not be easy for Kang Xinmu to deal with the level 3 transcendent god Emperor Wa demon statue alone. After all, when Kang Xinmu was alone, he didn't have so much energy to fight back against the Emperor Wa demon statue. This made it faster for Kang Xinmu to defeat the Emperor Wa demon statue when he joined forces with others. Next was to deal with the tail. Everyone attacked the petrified tail of the Emperor Wa demon statue together. As the 13 stone bones of the tail were continuously destroyed, the frequency of its attacks on the ground became faster and faster. Almost every breath, several stone pillars and earth spikes appeared around them, attacking each of them. The whole place was filled with the eruption of earth spikes. Gu Xinue, Xiao Bai, and the others raised their speed to the extreme. Facing such an attack, they would definitely dodge the earth spikes attacking them first, and then think about fighting back. But Kang Xinmu was different. This attack wasn't too strong for him. Now that there were no other threats, he could completely take it head-on. The black dragon body he had transformed into was directly above the Emperor Wa demon statue, constantly devouring the power of the surrounding earth spikes, using it to counterattack the tail of the Emperor Wa demon statue. Because he didn't need to dodge the earth spikes smashed out by the Emperor Wa demon statue's tail, he was the fastest one to attack the petrified tail. The ultimate level 9 Hui Dragon explosion, together with formless weapon Chen Xing's 33 divine feathers, produced hundreds of Hui Dragon explosions. The petrified tail was constantly attacked by Kang Xinmu and the others. Finally, all 13 stone bones were destroyed, and the entire tail broke and shattered. The demon statue of Empress Enviwa was almost defeated successfully. After the tail shattered, the heart that was left behind emitted a faint blue glow. These rays of light wrapped around the 8 of them. Is this the chi of Emperor Enviwa? Kang Xinmu could not help but think as he felt the power of the blue light. That's right. This is the aura of Emperor Wa. The primeval demonic ancestor's voice came into Kang Xinmu's mind. Emperor Enviwa always likes to infect people with her aura. Even the standard to recruit followers is the quantity of her aura. According to my speculation, I'm afraid that you'll need at least 10 layers of Emperor Enviwa's aura if you want to enter the central region of this relic. The aura of Empress Enviwa was barely gained after defeating the Empress Enviwa demon statue. How could it be easy to accumulate 10 levels? The key point was that the spirit of Emperor Enviwa could not be transmitted to others. Otherwise, someone would have entered deeper into the relic. In addition to defeating the demon statue of Empress Enviwa, I can only rely on luck if I want to obtain the aura of Emperor Enviwa through other channels. According to the information, some treasures and challenges will appear in the periphery of the relic from time to time. Obtaining these treasures or completing these challenges will allow you to obtain the aura of Emperor Enviwa. However, until now, no one has obtained more than 10 layers of the aura of Emperor Enviwa. Kang Xinmu sighed. What followed might be a protracted exploration and battle. You have the power of devouring. Maybe you can try to find another way. The primeval demonic ancestor suddenly chuckled. Can't the power of devouring devour everything? Maybe you can devour the aura of Emperor Enviwa from others. In this way, you can reach your goal faster, right? Hearing that, Kang Xinmu's eyes lit up. If it worked, wouldn't he be the first one to step into the central region of the relic, or even the inside region? It might work to devour the aura of Emperor Enviwa. Without any hesitation, Kang Xinmu directly called Liang Xiao over. Liang Xiao, don't move. After Kang Xinmu gave an order to Liang Xiao, the power of devouring started to attach to him. What are you doing? Liang Xiao shivered. Looking at Kang Xinmu, he felt that Kang Xinmu was up to no good. Just don't move. Jiang Xinwu chuckled. He wasn't going to explain so much to him. Let's just do it and talk later. As his power of devouring was attached to Liang Xiao, Kang Xinmu found that he really felt the aura of Emperor Enviwa from Liang Xiao. What's more, he could really devour it for his own use. As Kang Xinmu exerted his power, a faint purple light was directly absorbed towards Kang Xinmu. 2 layers of aura of Emperor Envy. Feeling an extra layer of aura of Emperor Envy on him, Kang Xinmu couldn't help but feel satisfied. The power of devouring is too powerful. It can really devour everything. The aura of Emperor Envy couldn't be transferred to others. Only the power of devouring could transfer the aura of Emperor Envy. And the most important thing was, transmit. With the power of devouring, Kang Xinmu derived the ability of transmitting. After he absorbed Liang Zhao's aura of Emperor Envy, everyone present opened their eyes wide and felt a great wave in their hearts. Then, Kang Xinmu transmitted the aura of Emperor Envy back to Liang Zhao. Success! Only 1 layer of aura of Emperor Envy was left on Kang Xinmu. Liang Zhao had another layer of aura of Emperor Envy. That was to say, Kang Xinmu could freely control everyone's aura of Emperor Envy. This was a great discovery. It was also the biggest key to explore the relics of Emperor Envy. With this discovery, Kang Xinmu and the others would make a fortune. Kang Xinmu, you can transfer the aura of Emperor Envy? Even Moya felt it was incredible. Wasn't this person a little too strange? The relics of Emperor Envy were very mysterious. The aura of Emperor Envy was a very mysterious power. Even supreme existences couldn't control it. But now, Kang Xinmu could control and transfer the aura of Emperor Envy. So, we are invincible. Standing aside, Yi Yin's eyes were full of admiration. Brother Jiang, it seems that we have to plunder the aura of Emperor Envy from others. As long as we plunder enough aura of Emperor Envy, we can enter the central part of the relics first, or even the inside. In other words, if they wanted to enter the deeper part of the relics quickly, they had to plunder the aura of others. Otherwise, they would never catch up with the others. Chapter 54:30. At this moment, there were 8 of them, and each of them had a layer of qi of Emperor Envy. If Kang Xinmu wanted to enter the depth of Emperor Envy's inheritance, he would not take others' qi of Emperor Envy as his own. For Kang Xinmu, if he wanted to explore the deeper part of the inheritance, no one could be left behind. All 8 of them had to go in together. Therefore, he needed at least 80 layers of qi of Emperor Envy. Now, all the cultivators of the 5 clans who were exploring the inheritance basically had about 50 layers of qi of Emperor Envy. Therefore, he needed to plunder about 20 people in total. If everything went well, Kang Xinmu and the other 7 people could try to enter the central part of Emperor Envy's inheritance after plundering the qi of Emperor Envy from 20 people. As for the central part, they didn't know how much qi of Emperor Envy was needed. In any case, it was great news for them that Kang Xinmu could devour and plunder the qi of Emperor Envy. Originally, no one had the ability to obtain 10 layers of qi of Emperor Envy. However, once Kang Xinmu used this method, he would be much ahead of the others. Of course, the key was that Kang Xinmu and the other 7 people had to have the ability to defeat other teams. No matter which clan the cultivators were from, if Kang Xinmu and the other 7 people couldn't defeat them, it would be impossible for them to devour the qi of Emperor Envy. Kang Xinmu and the other 7 people started to take action. Yi Yin was the scout. His hiding ability was the best among them, except for Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu needed to stay in the middle of the team. Therefore, Yi Yin went out to explore was the safest way. After Yi Yin went out, the other 7 people huddled together and moved forward along the safe route that Yi Yin had taken. Along the way, they didn't encounter any dangerous traps. After all, the inheritance of Emperor Envy had been discovered a long time ago, and some primitive dangers had been explored by others. However, it was said that there would be some tests left by Emperor Envy in the inheritance of Emperor Envy from time to time. Once one passed these tests, one could obtain a layer of qi of Emperor Envy. Encountering such a test also depended on luck. Some practitioners were looking forward to encountering Emperor Envy's test, because it meant that they were one step closer to the middle part of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. Of course, the difficulty of some of Empress Nvua's tests was also extremely terrifying. Some of them even made people leave the relic directly, not daring to enter again. This had also existed before. Therefore, it depended on one's luck to see what kind of test Emperor Nvua would encounter. According to the map of the military headquarters of the Dragon God clan, Kang Xinmu and the others wandered around the periphery of the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance, planning to plunder the aura of Emperor Nvua from other practitioners. Of course, Kang Xinmu was looking forward to the test of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. Unfortunately, this kind of test was too rare. The entire relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance had appeared for such a long time. However, others could only feel the aura of Emperor Nvua at most. It could be seen that Emperor Nvua's inheritance was rare. On average, it would only happen once every 3 months. Kang Xinmu and the others had just come in, and it was not so easy to encounter the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. Even the lucky practitioners seemed to have at most 6 levels of Emperor Nvua's aura. This was the statistics of the military headquarters of the Dragon God clan. It was possible that some practitioners of other clans had higher levels of Emperor Nvua's aura, but the military headquarters of the Dragon God clan didn't know about it. Anyway, inside the Dragon God clan, there were at most 6 levels of Emperor Nvua's aura. After advancing in the relic for about 2 days, the news from Yi Yin's exploration finally came back. We found 4 practitioners of the Fu Shui clan, and they are all old men. The 4 old men of the Fu Shui clan must be existences at the peak of the Dragon Emperor level, and they had the peak combat power at the Dragon Emperor level. The combat power of each old man was probably at the level of Yi Yin. If it were an ordinary young Dragon Emperor of the Dragon God clan at the peak of the Dragon God clan, he would definitely be no match for them in a one-on-one fight. But they didn't exist in Kang Xinmu's case. Because, whether it was Kang Xinmu, Moya, or Gu Xinyue, they were basically invincible in a fight at the same level. After receiving the news from Yi Yin, Kang Xinmu publicized the news and asked the others to get ready. Ran, you take Xiao Bai, a total of 4 people, and surround one of them. Gu Xinyue, you and Yi Yin work together to deal with one. Moya and I, we each take care of one. The most basic strategy this time was to separate the 4 of them, so that they couldn't attack each other. In this way, they could effectively prevent the other from using any powerful formations. Once the other party really used some kind of formation, it was hard to say which side would be at a disadvantage. After all, some formations did have extremely strong abilities, and they could even make everyone in the formation exert twice the strength. In that case, Kang Xinmu and the others might not be a match for them. Therefore, they had to separate them. Let's go, let's attack together. Kang Xinmu led the others and directly activated the power of the Star Inheritance, hiding everyone in the void. His Star Inheritance had already surpassed the Dragon Emperor's peak and reached the Supreme God level. Therefore, after entering Emperor Wu's legacy, he was directly suppressed to the Dragon Emperor's peak level, which was the same level as Moya. However, his understanding of the space attribute void power that came from the Star Inheritance still existed. Therefore, he directly led the others into the void, making it seem as if they had all disappeared. Kang Xinmu's concealment method was comparable to Yi Yin's. The difference was that Yi Yin could conceal himself and could not bring others with him. Jiang Shenwu, on the other hand, could use his cosmic runes to conceal himself with everyone else. This was the most terrifying thing about Kang Xinmu. When he hid with everyone, he could even be strengthened by the centipede ink beast that had fused with him, making his concealment ability even more terrifying. The 7 of them moved forward together and soon arrived at the hall that Yi Yin had mentioned. In this hall, there were 4 talisman Shui elders who did not even know that they had been targeted. They were resting and investigating in this hall. They wanted to wait for the next trial of Emperor Wu's legacy to appear in this hall. Just 3 months ago, they had encountered the trial of Emperor Wu's legacy in this hall. Therefore, they were here again and did not leave. They wanted to see if there would be another trial of Emperor Wu's legacy in 3 months. If there was, they would have made a huge profit. Kang Xinmu had already discovered that the 4 talisman Shui elders had the aura of Emperor Wu at the 4th to 5th level. If they could get it done, it would be a huge gain. Attack. Chapter 54-31. At Kang Xinmu's command, everyone moved out immediately. Jiang Shenwu directly targeted a talisman water tribe elder that he was dealing with alone. Before the other party could react, he directly transformed into his pitch-black dragon form and attacked with the 9th stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Explosion. The effects of the 33 divine plumes were already in full effect. 9 layers of Hui Dragon Explosion were condensed, exploding right next to the opponent. Although Kang Xinmu had already converted the dragon soldier Chen Xing's battle runes into offensive battle runes, and the divine dragon tyrant body art had also been switched to offensive mode, maximizing the strength of his attack. However, the talisman water tribe elder reacted immediately, and the water god projection condensed behind him. The moment the water god projection condensed, a water attribute barrier enveloped the entire water god projection, protecting it. The entire process was completed in one go. It could be said that this elder was constantly on guard against sneak attacks. Wasn't his wariness too strong? However, an existence that explored permanent intermediate-grade relics all year round should really be this vigilant. Otherwise, he would have been eliminated long ago. At that moment, the talisman water tribe elder snorted coldly. After blocking Kang Xinmu's dragon blast, he actually counterattacked Kang Xinmu. At this moment, countless water attribute powers gathered together, forming one water dragon after another. The terror of the water talisman tribe's martial technique was immediately displayed at this moment. The water dragon swept towards Jiang Shenwu's divine dragon form and charged towards him. On Kang Xinmu's side of the battlefield, the power of the dragon blast had already dissipated and was spreading to the surroundings. However, the power of the water dragons had just erupted. Kang Xinmu immediately transformed into his defensive form and continued to use the 9th level ultimate dragon blast. Of course, the power of the 9th level ultimate dragon blast became very weak when he was in his defensive state. It didn't even pose any threat to the other party. However, at that moment, Kang Xinmu's 33 Sky Divine Plume was also erupting. As the 33 Heavens Divine Plume entered its peak state, the 9-stage Extreme Dao Flood Dragon Explosion he released quickly became 10 times, 11 times, the number of Dark Dragon explosions kept increasing. As for the Fu Shui race elder, he felt that Kang Xinmu was very young and looked down on him. But what he didn't expect was that his attacks were useless against Kang Xinmu. His countless water dragons landed directly on Kang Xinmu's black dragon body, but they were actually blocked by Kang Xinmu's divinity shield. Kang Xinmu hadn't even used his canopy of despair. That was normal. The defense of the God-strong dragon technique and the divine dragon tyrant body technique alone allowed Kang Xinmu's defense to reach the 4th level of the transcendent god. If it was combined with the despair sky screen and the effect of the dragon soldier Chen Xing, it would reach a level that surpassed the 5th stage of the transcendent god. How could an ordinary peak stage emperor-class cultivator break through that? Therefore, Kang Xinmu's defense with the God-strong dragon technique was enough. As his opponent attacked, Kang Xinmu's 33 Heavens Divine Plume also entered its peak state. Finally, 33 dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might appeared around Kang Xinmu. These 33 dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might began to devour all the energy around them. The energy that was devoured was converted into its own strength, which could help Kang Xinmu defend himself and counterattack his opponent. After the dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might appeared, they continued to attack their opponent. Each time, 33 attacks were launched consecutively. Some even attacked at the same time, causing the Fu Shui race elders' expression to change drastically. At this point, the outcome of the battle on Kang Xinmu's side was decided. Although the old man from the Talisman Water tribe was strong, Jiang Shenwu was stronger. The battles on the other fronts were also going smoothly. Because Kang Xinmu's group's concealment abilities were too strong, they hid in the hall and purposely waited for the four opponents to spread out before attacking. This way, the four opponents couldn't support each other at all. Ran led Xiao Yuhua, Xiao Bai, and Liang Xiao to attack a bald Fu Shui race elder. The bald Talisman race old man immediately activated his defensive measures when he was ambushed, and similarly blocked the four's attacks. However, there was one thing he hadn't expected. That was Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao immediately activated his mad dog mode from the start of the attack, and the dragon blood in his body exploded without any regard for his life. The terrifying power directly bombarded the old man's water god projection. Constantly activating the exploding dragon blood made Liang Xiao's attacks more and more powerful. The other three even had the intention of supporting Liang Xiao. Because he cultivated the dark dragon filth control technique, Liang Xiao had an extremely fast recovery speed. In addition, he also cultivated other body-tempering dragon-type martial techniques. All of this caused Liang Xiao to completely use self-harming methods to launch powerful explosive attacks. However, at the same time, he didn't have to worry about being seriously injured. The only flaw was that Liang Xiao's attacks were a little too painful. With Kang Xinmu's fighting style, it was more painful to take a beating. This Liang Xiao was in pain even when he was attacking. He kept losing blood. If he hadn't cultivated sufficient body tempering and restoration-type dragon-type martial techniques, his own dragon blood would have exploded before the enemy died. As for Xiao Bai and Xiao Yuhua, their battle strength was also very strong, but at this moment, they were overshadowed by Liang Xiao. Together with Ran, the four of them worked together to cover Liang Xiao's attacks. Once they attacked, they suppressed the bald Fu Shui race elder, leaving him unable to fight back at all. Even if he occasionally counterattacked, it was easily resolved by Ran. One had to know that Ran's defense was not much weaker than Kang Xinmu's. The four of them worked together to suppress the opponent. On the other side, there was no need to mention Gu Xinyue and Yi Yin. In fact, the two of them were the fastest team to finish off their opponents. Gu Xinyue took the lead and directly dragged the opponent into a dream. She didn't even have time to activate the water god phantom. Of course, the opponent had already activated the water god phantom when he first noticed that something was wrong. Unfortunately, at this time, he was already in a dream. He had only activated the water god phantom in a dream. Immediately after, intense pain came from all over his body, causing him to directly leave the dream. Only then did he realize that his real body had suffered a fierce attack and was seriously injured. Yi Yin launched a surprise attack. He cultivated many types of dragon-type martial techniques, and he was good at attacking his opponents with the power that they were most afraid of. For example, he had used a fire attribute dragon-type martial technique. It directly erupted, and the terrifying power instantly injured the elder. Chapter 54-32. The three battlefields were all quite smooth. On the other side, Moya's battle was even smoother. When Kang Xinmu and the others were still fighting, Moya had already finished her battle. Since their opponents were the elders of the Fu Shui clan, they would not show any mercy. Killing them meant removing the threat to the Divine Dragon clan. Who knew how many dragon warriors of the Divine Dragon clan had been killed by the four elders of the Fu Shui clan? Now, they were just avenging for them. The enmity between races was completely unreasonable. Soon, the opponents of the four battlefields were all defeated. And Kang Xinmu directly exerted the devouring power to devour the aura of Emperor Nviwa in the four people. If all the aura of Emperor Envihua was absorbed by Kang Xinmu alone, he would be qualified to go to the central part of Emperor Envua's relic. However, he could not go to the central part of the relic alone. If he encountered any difficulties, he might not be able to deal with them alone. Therefore, he had to devour more aura of Emperor Envihua, so that each of them could have 10 layers of aura of Emperor Envihua. Shall we continue to move forward? After a battle, Liang Xiao felt a little excited and eager to have a try. Feeling the extra aura of Emperor Envihua, he was looking forward to the next battle. After all, according to this pace, each of them could have 10 layers of aura of Emperor Envihua in the near future. However, after hearing his words, Kang Xinmu shook his head and said, "Let's stay in this palace for the time being." The 4 elders of the Fu Shui clan should have stayed here for a long time, which means, there will probably be a test from the relic of Emperor Envua's inheritance in a short time in this palace. If we pass the test, we can also get the aura of Emperor Envihua. Kang Xinmu was quite thoughtful. I think so too. Moya nodded and said softly, in the entire relic of Emperor Envihua, although there are many people of the Fu Shui clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, the total aura of Emperor Envihua is not much. Our goal is not just to enter the central part of the relic with 10 layers of the aura of Emperor Envihua, but to collect more aura of Emperor Envihua so that we can enter the relic. According to my experience, each of them may have 50 or even 100 layers of Emperor Envua's aura before they can enter the core area of the ruins. Therefore, even if we plunder and devour all the members of the Talisman Water clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, it's unlikely that all 8 of us will possess so much of Emperor Wa's aura. If there's an opportunity to obtain additional Emperor Wa's aura, we must seize it. What Moya said made sense. However, the meaning behind these words made many of the young cultivators present click their tongues. Xiao Yuhua couldn't help but say, 50 floors, over 100 floors, isn't this too exaggerated? Currently, no one had managed to reach the center of the ruins from the 10th floor. It had already been 1 or 2 years. Wouldn't it take decades or even centuries to enter the core area of the ruins? Xiao Bai shook her head and said, "This is completely normal. As long as we reach the level of Dragon Emperor, our lifespan will be different from ordinary people. It is normal for us to live for hundreds of years. Emperor Envua's inheritance is such an important thing. Who wouldn't be willing to spend decades to try and fight for it?" Liang Xiao laughed out loud, "Ha ha ha. Doesn't that mean we've gained a great advantage? We can achieve the goal that others need decades or hundreds of years to achieve in a short time. This is all because of Kang Xinmu. Without him, it would be almost impossible for us to gain anything in the ruins this time." Moya said with a chuckle. She hadn't expected such a situation. The exploration of Emperor Envua's inheritance was destined to be a protracted exploration. After all, it was related to a great inheritance. However, for Kang Xinmu, his devouring power was equivalent to cheating. Others could only obtain a layer of Emperor Envua's aura by encountering Emperor Envua's test in the inheritance for many years. However, Kang Xinmu could directly devour Emperor Envua's aura and absorb it for himself. If this wasn't cheating, what was it? Of course, it was also very difficult. If it was someone else who had this ability, they might not be able to achieve the goal steadily. After all, no one's combat capability was top-notch. Except for Kang Xinmu's team, the other teams tried their best to avoid fighting in the inheritance of Emperor Envihua. Because once a fight broke out, no one could be sure that they could win. The top experts of the Dragon Emperor level from the 5 major clans were gathered here. None of them was simple. Only Kang Xinmu. Their team could steadily suppress the other top experts of the Dragon Emperor level who had the same number of experts. This was the fundamental reason why they could successfully plunder Emperor Envua's aura. Strength was the most important thing. Then, the 8 of them waited in the palace. During this period of time, Jiang Shenwu and Yi Yin had unleashed their sensory abilities to the fullest. Moya was the same. Their senses were all concentrated at the entrances of several palaces. They would immediately be able to sense if any other cultivators approached. The 4 elders of the Talisman Water tribe were too careless. However, their perception was not good enough, so they couldn't find Yi Yin and Kong Shinmu. It should be noted that Yi Yin and Kong Shinmu's concealment ability had long surpassed the top experts of the Dragon Emperor level. Moreover, their detection and perception abilities were also existences that surpassed this level. Once others tried to approach them stealthily. Sorry, they would definitely be discovered. There were about hundreds of similar palaces in the periphery of the inheritance of Emperor Nviwa. Periodically, the inheritance test of Emperor Nviwa would be held in some palaces. Some palaces were occupied by some cultivators, while some cultivators wandered around and went to wherever the inheritance test was held. Therefore, the palace that Kong Shinmu's team occupied was not unattended. On the 3rd day after they occupied the palace, as expected, a fellow stealthily came to the palace in concealment. This fellow was a cultivator of the 1,000-winged snake clan. His concealment ability was quite strong. At least, the top experts of the Dragon Emperor level would not be able to discover him. Unfortunately, as soon as he appeared outside the palace, he was discovered by Kong Shinmu, Yi Yin, and Moya at the same time. However, they did not take action immediately. They wanted to wait for the other team to arrive so that they could capture all of them in one fell swoop. If they took action now, they might only be able to deal with the concealer alone. However, if they waited a little longer, they might be able to reap a great harvest. Everyone waited quietly and pretended that they did not notice the fellow's appearance. As for the concealer of the 1,000-winged snake clan, he kept exploring the palace. He seemed to be rather solemn. Perhaps he knew that the palace was originally occupied by the 4 elders of the Talisman Water tribe. However, the 4 elders were gone now. Chapter 54-33. The recommended new book, The First God of All Times, already had 2 million words, and it was popular on the internet. If the young dragon warriors were not strong, the Dragon God clan would not easily allow them to enter the relic of Emperor Nvua's inheritance. After all, each clan had a limited number of places to enter the relic. Wouldn't it be a waste of places to let weak dragon warriors enter? Not only would it not help their clan achieve better results, but it would also give other clans more opportunities. However, if the 8 young dragon warriors in front of him were all strong, the hidden existence did not believe it. Where did so many young dragon warriors come from? He immediately planned to call his friends to kill Kong Shinmu and the others in this palace. There were 6 people in his team. Each of them was a super strong person who had experienced hundreds of battles, and they were all at the peak of the Emperor level. Including him, if the 6 of them worked together, it should not be a problem to defeat these 8 young dragon warriors, right? Little did they know that Kong Shinmu was also waiting for the hidden existence's helper to come. This hidden existence could not send messages now. So, after investigating the situation of Kong Shinmu and the others, he directly left this palace, planning to tell the situation to his helper. At the same time, Yi Yin had completely concealed himself and headed in the direction of the hidden person, following behind him to investigate. Before the other party's reinforcements arrived, he felt that it was necessary to get a clear understanding of the other party's strength before he could make a concrete plan. Soon, Yi Yin's message came back. The other 5 people were really rushing to this palace quickly, and it seemed that they were anxious to kill Kong Shinmu and the others. The other side thought that they had already found out the strength of Kong Shinmu and the others, and the 8 young dragon warriors had even arranged who to deal with who. But unfortunately, they had no idea that Kong Shinmu and the others were also making a more perfect arrangement to deal with them. The reason for all this was that whether it was Kong Shinmu or Yi Yin, their hiding ability was much stronger than the other side's. Among the 1,000-winged snake clan's group of 6, there were 4 old men, 2 middle-aged men, and a total of 4 men and 2 women. As they hurried to the palace where Kang Xinmu and the others were, they discussed their tactics and soon came to an agreement. Yi Yin had been hiding beside them. Moreover, he clearly heard their tactics. They attached great importance to Emoya, a woman who cultivated the force of nature. They would definitely send one of their strongest cultivators to deal with her. The other 5 joined hands to deal with Kang Xinmu and the other 6 dragon warriors. As far as they were concerned, this battle was practically foolproof. But, Yi Yin and the others had already made arrangements. Kang Xinmu and the rest believed that there wouldn't be any problems for Emoya to deal with the strongest expert of the other party. Apart from that, Kang Xinmu planned to deal with all 3 of them by himself. Those 3 old men all seemed to be extremely powerful existences, but Kang Xinmu wasn't afraid of them. He planned to stall the 3 of them by himself. As for the remaining middle-aged man and woman, the other 6 would join hands to deal with them. As usual, Yi Yin and Gu Xinyue would form one team, while Ran Ran and the rest would form another team. This way, they would be more comfortable cooperating with each other, and their combat power would be greatly enhanced. This way, their tactics would be foolproof. Originally, according to the previous arrangement of dealing with the 4 old men from the Talisman Shui tribe, Kang Xinmu would be able to deal with one of them easily. However, the speed at which Kang Xinmu dealt with his opponents was not fast. Therefore, if the other party sent more people to attack Ran Ran and the rest, they would be under great pressure. Therefore, Kang Xinmu decided to shift the pressure to himself. He definitely had the strength to do so, and he could even fight against 3 of them by himself. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the other party was about to enter the palace. Outside the palace, the middle-aged man from the 1,000-winged snake clan who was hiding immediately buried the 6 of them in a black fog. The black fog gradually dissipated. It was a group concealment technique. It seemed like they were planning to launch a sneak attack. Unfortunately, Yi Yin was following them, and he could see their every move clearly. A fierce battle was about to break out. However, just as the other party was about to enter the palace, all the passages around the palace suddenly released a golden light, blocking all the entrances of the palace. This is, the test of Emperor Hua's ruins? Kang Xinmu's expression changed slightly. The change was so fast that they could not react in time. Undoubtedly, after the test of Emperor Hua's ruins began, the entire palace was sealed. The 6 cultivators from the 1,000-winged snake clan who were still outside could not enter the palace. Moreover, even Yi Yin who was following them was isolated outside. This was a little unbearable. He did not expect the test of Emperor Hua's ruins would begin at this time. The entire palace was isolated. Looking at the golden light blocking the entrance, Kang Xinmu did not have time to worry about Yi Yin. He believed that with Yi Yin's ability, he would not be in trouble. The 6 cultivators from the 1,000-winged snake clan should be waiting outside the palace. Therefore, Kang Xinmu and the others would definitely have to face 2 challenges in a row. First was the test of Emperor Hua's ruins, and then the attack of the 6 cultivators from the 1,000-winged snake clan. Let's deal with the test of Emperor Hua's ruins first. If we can pass this test, each of us will obtain an additional layer of Emperor Hua's aura. Kang Xinmu instructed. Emoya, Gu Xinyue, Ran Ran, and the other 2 wore solemn expressions. Some of the tests of Emperor Hua's ruins were not too difficult, but some were extremely difficult. They did not know what the test they would face was. Regardless, they believed they could pass the test. If even they could not pass the test, who else had the ability to pass the test? It all depended on what the test was. Soon, Jiang Shenwu and the rest, a total of 7 people, were surrounded by a golden light that enveloped them. Then, they were sent to a corner of the palace. The 7 of them were arranged together, and all of them had their divine dragon forms removed. In the palace, the golden light flickered continuously, connecting into one passage after another. The entire palace was surrounded by the golden light into a maze. The starting point, the finishing point. And, the countdown. Kang Xinmu and the others soon understood the rules of this test. The inheritance of Emperor Hua's ruins turned the entire palace into a complicated route composed of passages. Then, they needed to go from the starting point in one corner of the palace to the finishing point in another corner of the palace. They would not get lost along the way, but the attacks from Emperor Hua's ruins would constantly erupt in the middle of the passage leading to the finishing point. Only by resisting these attacks could they reach the finishing point alive. There must be someone to block these attacks. Moreover, the attacks will only be triggered once in each section of the journey. In other words, we can work together to reach the finishing point through a relay. Chapter 54-34. This was a team test and not an individual test. It was basically impossible for a person to reach the destination from the starting point alone. Even Kang Xinmu was the same. He realized that the passageway from the starting point to the destination was filled with horrifying attack formations. Once he fell into one, even he would not be able to persist. The key was that Kang Xinmu could continuously recover his strength and injuries by relying on his devouring power. That was very useful when he faced other opponents. But now, when he was facing an attack array, it was completely useless. This was because he had nothing to devour. His devouring power could not pass through the formation and devour the energy within. Hence, this gave him a certain limit and made it impossible for him to complete this test alone. One person must be responsible for the defense of a section of the journey. "I'll go first," Kang Xinmu said to everyone. After all, everyone was a team, so there was no problem of trust. If the 6,000 winged snake clan cultivators outside came faster and were sealed in this palace for the test, it would be really troublesome. Firstly, both parties could not really cooperate. Secondly, not only could they not rely on each other to help, but they also had to prevent each other from hindering them. This was the troublesome part. Fortunately, the other party's movements were slightly slower, and they were isolated outside the palace. Soon, Kang Xinmu set off from the starting point. He transformed into a pitch-black divine dragon and flew directly into the passageway. He completely changed his body into a defensive mode. As soon as he entered the range of the passageway, the surrounding attack formations were already activated. Horrifying energy of various attributes poured madly toward Kang Xinmu. However, Kang Xinmu's defense would not be broken so easily. His strength had completely surpassed the level of the Dragon Emperor at his peak. Hence, it was simply too easy for him to face this level of test. Soon, he flew forward rapidly and crossed a distance of thousands of feet. The others followed behind him and slowly caught up from the passageway. After Kang Xinmu flew at the forefront and activated the attack formation's energy, it was absolutely safe for the others to pass through this passageway. They followed behind Kang Xinmu to conserve their strength and did not encounter any attacks. Kang Xinmu, on the other hand, was rapidly flying towards the passageway in front of him, constantly resisting the attacks of the surrounding arrays. His own strength wasn't weak, and coupled with his various defensive methods, the attacks from the array formation didn't pose much of a threat to him. However, his strength was also being rapidly consumed. According to his estimation, with his defense, he could probably last 1/3 of the journey. While they were flying through the tunnel, the others were also carefully observing their surroundings to prevent any accidents from happening. Based on the difficulty of this test, if those 4 Talisman Water Clan old men were to enter, they would not be able to complete it. Liang Xiao said as he looked around. "That's right. However, I don't think it's necessary to pass this test to obtain Emperor Nvua's aura." Yi Yin smiled and said, "Maybe it's based on results. Even Kang Xinmu could only walk 1/3 of the way. If the rest of us work together, we should be able to walk 2/3 of the way. However, this is our team. If it were other cultivators, they wouldn't be able to pass like us as long as they don't stack up with numbers. Kang Xinmu's defense was extremely terrifying. Moreover, although he couldn't devour energy to replenish himself most of the time, he could still reduce the power of the attack formations by half. This also allowed him to consume as little energy as possible when he blocked the attacks. That was why he could walk 1/3 of the way. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to do it at all. Only with such a lineup could they complete the entire test. If it were anyone else, it would be amazing if they could walk half of the way. Even the 4 Talisman Water Clan old men might only be able to walk 1/3 of the way. About half an hour later, Jiang Shenwu advanced in the middle of the array formation's offensive and was finally exhausted. He had successfully walked 1/3 of the way. Immediately after, Yi Yin took the lead and said, "Let me do the next one. It seems that the further we go, the stronger the attack formations become. Miss Amoya, it's best if you stay until the end." At this moment, Kang Xinmu suddenly said, "I still have some energy left. I'll go with you. You can block most of the attacks, and I can use this opportunity to recover." This was the advantage of the devouring power. He planned that when Yi Yin attacked, Yi Yin would block the majority of the surrounding array attacks while he hid within the range of Yi Yin's defense. He would find an opportunity to devour the surrounding array attacks and convert them into his own power to recover his strength. Everyone was surprised when they heard this. Although they were prepared, they didn't expect Kang Xinmu to have such a method. "Okay." Yi Yin nodded solemnly. "I will protect you properly." He knew that Kang Xinmu was the core and cohesive force of this team. Moreover, Kang Xinmu's combat power was undoubtedly strong. Moreover, he wanted to see how Kang Xinmu's devouring power was recovering his strength. If he observed closely, he might be able to see some clues. The two of them held hands and continued forward. As soon as they entered the storm-like attack formations, Yi Yin was completely shocked. Wasn't the intensity of the attack formations too terrifying? Even for him, it was extremely difficult for him to withstand such an array attack. He had practically used all of his defensive dragon martial skills in order to be able to block all of this power. As for Kang Xinmu, he looked so relaxed earlier, but he could actually last for an hour. He was really strong. Yi Yin asked himself. If he was in Kang Xinmu's position, he might only last for 30 minutes. However, immediately after, Jiang Shenwu's devouring power spread out from under the divine dragon's body that he was protecting. The pitch-black devouring power engulfed all the attack formations in the surroundings and devoured a small portion of the attack formations. Not only did it weaken the attack formations in the surroundings, but it also replenished Kang Xinmu's strength. If Kang Xinmu resisted the attack formations by himself, his consumption would be much higher than the devouring power. Therefore, his strength was depleted in an hour. But with Yi Yin's cooperation, he could quickly recover his strength through devouring. And the most important thing was, Yi Yin, you don't have to hold on for too long. There are still 6,000 winged snake clan cultivators waiting outside. If their strength is depleted, it will be difficult to deal with them later. Save at least half of your strength. Kang Xinmu reminded. Chapter 54-35. Kang Xinmu, who possessed the devouring power, could do this without a doubt. However, he needed the help of others. Liang Zhao's absolute combat strength was still on the low side. Facing the various attacks in this passageway, even with Jiang Shenwu's devouring power helping him block a small portion of the power, he would not be able to hold on for long. However, their greatest advantage was their numbers. After Liang Zhao's strength was depleted by half, he immediately retreated to the back and allowed Ran Ran to take the lead. Ran Ran's defense was much stronger than Liang Zhao's. After all, she had always followed Kang Xinmu's cultivation method and had practiced many body-refining dragon martial techniques. Moreover, she was the first cultivator of the dark dragon filth controlling technique, so she was very accomplished in this aspect. Even Liang Xiao had not been able to cultivate the dark dragon filth controlling technique to its peak, but Ran Ran had long cultivated this dragon martial technique to the supreme sage realm. This was an unparalleled level, the strongest level of a dragon martial technique. Therefore, when Ran Ran attacked, she was able to last longer than Liang Xiao. Moreover, her recovery ability was also stronger. With every movement, one could see countless energy surging and recovering around her slender black dragon body. This was the powerful recovery ability of the dark dragon filth controlling technique. In fact, after Ran Ran cultivated the dark dragon filth controlling technique to the supreme sage realm, she had already discovered that it was an improved version of a higher grade dragon martial technique. If it was a Holy Spirit dragon martial technique or even a super divine dragon martial technique, she would not have been able to cultivate it successfully in the past. However, she could first improve it into a high-grade source dragon martial technique so that she could cultivate it from a young age and protect herself. Moreover, after she had comprehended this dragon martial technique to its peak, she could even comprehend it on her own. Originally, the dark dragon filth controlling technique was only a high-grade source dragon martial technique. However, the dark dragon filth controlling technique that she was cultivating was already making a breakthrough towards the level of a Holy Spirit dragon martial technique. The Holy Spirit dragon martial technique was the dragon martial technique that the Dragon Emperor cultivated. Once it became a Holy Spirit dragon martial technique, the effects of the dark dragon imperial filth art would be greatly enhanced. For Ran Ran, her combat prowess would be greatly enhanced. At this moment, Ran Ran was not only defending Kong Xinmu from the attacks of the surrounding formations. Instead, he comprehended the dark dragon filth control art as he continued to defend. Before this, she had already comprehended the dark dragon filth mastery to the pinnacle of the pinnacle. Now was the time for her to make a breakthrough. The two black dragons moved forward in the passageway that was filled with array formation attacks. They seemed to be doing it with ease. Moya, Gu Xinyue, and the others followed behind them in the safe passage. At this point, they were already halfway through the test. Not only had Ran Ran not used up too much of her energy, but she had also made some new breakthroughs in her understanding of the dark dragon filth domination. The difference between the origin source dragon martial technique and the Holy Spirit dragon martial technique was in the details. These details could not be comprehended by those who had not reached the level of the Dragon King. Therefore, this determined the difference between the two. However, the difference in details was not significant. As long as one had enough comprehension, they could completely comprehend the origin source dragon martial technique into the Holy Spirit dragon martial technique. In particular, the dark dragon filth art, which was originally a super mystical dragon martial technique, was much easier to restore. Not long after, Ran Ran, who had long reached a bottleneck, finally made an important step in the aspect of the dark dragon filth art. In fact, the holy level dark dragon filth mastery she had comprehended even contained some of Jiang Shenwu's devouring power. This was even more terrifying than the original dark dragon filth art. From the characteristics of the dragon martial technique, the dark dragon filth art that she had broken through was indeed a Holy Spirit dragon martial technique. As long as she reached the level of the Dragon King, she would be able to cultivate it. However, the effects of this dragon martial technique had reached the level of a super mystical dragon martial technique. It was simply too powerful. When the dark dragon filth art transformed and finally reached the peak, its essence had already changed. The black dragon that Ran Ran had transformed into had undergone a qualitative transformation. The black energy condensed by the dark dragon filth art even formed a power whirlpool barrier that whistled around Ran Ran's mystical dragon body. It blocked the power of the formation around her. So powerful. Kong Xinmu could not help but exclaim in admiration that she had actually broken through the dragon martial technique at such a time. Although he had also reached the peak level of the dark dragon filth art, he did not have as high a comprehension as Ran Ran. This was because his focus had never been on this dragon martial technique. To him, this dragon martial technique was only a support. However, to Ran Ran, this dragon martial technique was the most important source of combat power. Originally, after reaching the peak, Ran Ran's combat power had stagnated. Although she was still considered very strong among the dragon martial artists of the same level, there was still a considerable gap between her and a top-notch dragon martial artist like Kang Xinmu. However, now that the dark dragon filth art had broken through to the peak level, Ran Ran's strength had suddenly become so strong that even Kang Xinmu could not see through it. He could feel that the power of the surrounding formation attacks had been blocked by more than half, and it was all from the power whirlpool barrier condensed by the dark dragon filth art. Moreover, the transformation of Ran Ran's dragon martial technique was equivalent to her directly cultivating an additional Holy Spirit dragon martial technique to the Supreme Sage realm. The dark dragon filth art's grade had increased, but Ran Ran's understanding of it was still at the Supreme Sage realm. This was extremely terrifying. It was equivalent to directly raising it to a whole new level. Originally, Ran Ran's various body-tempering dragon martial techniques overlapped, which gave her terrifying defensive power. However, now, with just the dark dragon filth art, her defensive power had reached its previous level. The other body-tempering dragon martial techniques seemed to be the icing on the cake. I feel that the dark dragon filth art can be improved further, Ran Ran said to Kang Xinmu in a low voice while blocking the attacks of the surrounding formation. Kang Xinmu nodded, but he did not let her tell him the key points of the dark dragon filth art's breakthrough. After all, this was her own understanding, and more importantly, Kang Xinmu's dark dragon filth art was not the strongest dragon martial technique. Therefore, there was no need to specifically improve this dragon martial technique. His current level was slightly higher than Ran Ran's. This was because he had already entered the Supreme God level, and he had already mastered some of the Supreme God dragon martial techniques. Even if the Despair Canopy and Divine Strong Dragon technique were only at the Heaven level and not the Sage level, their defensive power was not inferior to that of the Dark Dragon filth art that Ran Ran was currently cultivating. However, it was also very difficult to cultivate a high-level Divine Dragon martial technique to the Heaven level. Of course, to Kang Xinmu, as long as he could find a dragon martial artist who cultivated these two dragon martial techniques, he would naturally be able to easily improve it. The devouring power was almost omnipotent. Following this, Ran Ran continued to block attacks for Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu recovered his strength under Ran Ran's protection, and it did not take long for his strength to be completely restored. Following this, it was Kang Xinmu who advanced alone. He asked Ran Ran to temporarily retreat and conserve her strength, while he advanced rapidly and triumphantly. The attacks of the surrounding formation kept coming, but they could not hurt him at all. Chapter 54-36. Then, according to the previous rhythm, everyone cooperated with Kang Xinmu to pass through the passageway in the palace. The passageway was intricate and intertwined. Although it was in a palace, the total length was amazing. Gu Xinyue, Xiao Bai, Xiao Yuhua, and Mo Ye took turns to help Kang Xinmu resist the attacks of the surrounding formations. After resting, Kang Xinmu continued to move forward. 1 hour after the test of Emperor Nvua's inheritance began, Kang Xinmu finally took the lead and reached the end of the test. Gu Xinyue and Mo Ye followed closely behind him and didn't feel too much pressure along the way. All this was because Kang Xinmu was too powerful. This kind of defensive test was just right for Kang Xinmu. It was the type that he was best at. As long as they could reach the end, each of them would have a layer of Emperor Nvua's aura. When each of them reached the end, they already had 3 or 4 layers of Emperor Nvua's aura. This speed was simply amazing. It should be noted that the cultivators from various clans who entered Emperor Nvua's remains before had to work hard for several months to get 3 or 4 layers of Emperor Nvua's aura if they were extremely lucky. If they were unlucky or not strong enough, they might not even get 3 or 4 layers of Emperor Nvua's aura in a year. But now, Kang Xinmu and the others had each gotten 3 or 4 layers of Emperor Nvua's aura not long after they came in. If others knew this, their jaws would drop. And, this wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was what would happen next. The test of this palace has ended, so the passageways around the palace should be reopened. Moya said softly, we should prepare to deal with the 6 guys from the 1,000-winged snake clan. I don't know what's the situation outside. Yi Yin should be fine. Kang Xinmu nodded and said. As all of them reached the key point of the palace passageway, the passageway formed by the surrounding golden light finally dissipated gradually. What appeared in front of them was still the quaint inheritance palace. The surrounding passageways slowly opened up at this moment. The stone doors that were previously tightly shut now retracted back into the stone walls on both sides. Kang Xinmu keenly sensed that a figure had entered the palace. It was Yi Yin. How are you guys? Yi Yin was very nervous. He glanced at everyone once he entered the palace. Soon, he found that Kang Xinmu and the others were fine. Not only were they fine, but they were also in good condition. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Be careful, they're about to break in, Yi Yin immediately warned. Everyone knew who he was talking about, and they immediately prepared for battle. It was as if the test of Empress Nvuo just now was just a warm-up, and there was no pressure at all. As for Yi Yin, he did not ask about the details of the test. He could ask about it later. Right now, he only needed to know that everyone had passed the test. Next, the most important thing was to kill the 6,000-winged snake clan cultivators. Just when everyone was ready, there was a flow of hidden energy in the palace. The 6,000-winged snake clan cultivators had quietly entered the palace under the lead of the hidden expert. Normally, it would be difficult for anyone to react to their sneak attack. Unfortunately, Kang Xinmu, Yi Yin, and Moya had long sensed the existence of the 6,000-winged snake clan cultivators. Moreover, they had taken the initiative to attack first when the other party attempted to sneak attack them. According to the previous plan, Kang Xinmu directly blocked in front of the 3,000-winged snake clan cultivators. Among the 3,000-winged snake clan cultivators, one possessed the earth attribute, and the other 2 possessed the thunder attribute. One could tell with a glance that their killing power was terrifying. They transformed into 1,000-winged snakes and swam in the void as naturally as fish in the water. Unfortunately, Kang Xinmu's black dragon body instantly appeared in front of them, and the inheritance power of the starry sky suddenly erupted. Starry sky isolation. The inheritance power of the starry sky was directly released at this moment. The spatial attribute power that had long surpassed this level instantly isolated the surrounding space, sealing the 3,000-winged snake clan cultivators. 33 Divine Feathers. 9th Stage Extreme Dao Horn Dragon Burst. Instantly, 81 horn dragon bursts appeared in front of Kang Xinmu and blasted toward the 3,000-winged snakes. The 3,000-winged snake clan cultivators did not expect that they would be the ones to be sneak attacked when they hid themselves and were stunned for a moment. Facing Kang Xinmu's attack, they each executed their own life-saving techniques. Giant Peak shakes the heavens. Countless earth elements converged, turning into numerous mountain peaks that descended from the sky and bombarded the black dragon explosion, directly shattering these attacks into pieces. Dark Universe Lightning Net. Purple lightning strikes the heavens. Countless bolts of purple and dark lightning converged on the battlefield, forming a terrifying net of lightning that blocked the rest of the black dragon explosion. When the shockwave of energy dispersed, the 3,000-winged snake clan cultivators suddenly realized that the energy attacking them was not very strong. However, it was strange that this group of young dragon cultivators was able to discover their existence in advance. With just this exchange, the 3,000-winged snake clan cultivators had completely surrounded Kang Shinmu. They discovered that it would take some time to break through Kang Shinmu's starry sky isolation. Moreover, they could not be disturbed during this period, so the three of them had to work together. Rather than breaking through the starry sky isolation, it was better to kill Kang Shinmu first. In their eyes, although Kang Shinmu's perception was very sharp and his comprehension of the spatial attribute was very deep, his head-on combat strength was still too weak. The explosive attack just now was easily blocked by them. They did not feel any pressure at all. Therefore, they felt that Kang Shinmu's head-on combat strength was definitely very weak. He was only sent to obstruct the three of them so that the surrounding people could gain an advantage in numbers. "Brat, you're too arrogant." One of the 1,000-winged snake clan's 1,000-winged snake clan cultivator who had transformed into a giant green snake snorted coldly. His snake-like body slithered through the void, and in the next moment, countless earth elemental energy exploded in front of Kang Shinmu's black dragon body. The earth elemental energy condensed into giant balls of earth elemental energy. When the giant balls exploded, they produced unparalleled destructive power. This was a transcendent grade 1,000-winged serpent clan's martial technique. One had to know that if a cultivator wanted to cultivate a transcendent divine dragon's martial technique, they had to meet certain conditions. For example, Jiang Shenwu only had such an opportunity in the Dragon Soul Holy Tower. Chapter 54-37. The transcendent grade 1,000-winged snake clan's martial technique was unleashed. It was a giant earth attribute ball that exploded in front of Kang Shinmu. Boundless destructive power poured out at this moment. The 1,000-winged snake clan elder did not expect to defeat Kang Shinmu with this move. However, he felt that this move of his could at least injure Kang Shinmu to a certain extent. Even if he was not heavily injured, he would at least be injured. But, then, he was shocked. However, the explosive power of the giant earth attribute balls directly bombarded the body of Jiang Shenwu's black dragon and actually encountered a layer of pitch-black sky curtain. That was the supreme god-level defensive dragon martial skill, Desperate Sky Curtain. This layer of despair canopy almost caused the 1,000-winged snake clan elder to despair because he realized that his transcendent great attack could not do anything to Kang Shinmu. Not only that. His two companions also attacked Kang Shinmu with him. Dark purple lightning power and bright purple electric light bombarded Kang Shinmu's despair canopy. However, the combined attacks of the three of them were still unable to break Jiang Shenwu's despair canopy. This despair canopy was an extremely powerful defense that Kang Shinmu had cast. Combined with the power of the dragon soldier Chen Xing, all the battle runes were transformed into defensive battle runes. In this form, any defensive dragon martial technique that Kang Shinmu cast would have its defensive strength increased by more than 20 times. When facing the 3,000-winged snake clan elders, Kang Shinmu did not use his full strength. Even so, it was impossible for the 3,000-winged snake clan elders to defeat Kang Shinmu. They could not even injure Kang Shinmu. Your attacks are like scratching an itch. The 1,000-winged snake clan only has this little strength? At this moment, Kang Shinmu mocked. His divine dragon eyes were filled with disdain. This completely infuriated the three elders of the 1,000-winged serpent clan. Originally, if they had encountered a tough opponent, they might have thought of other methods, or perhaps they would have joined forces to break through the isolated space of the starry sky. But now, after being ridiculed by Kang Shinmu, they were instantly enraged. Weak, they were indeed weak. After all, they only had emperor-level strength. Compared to supreme gods and supreme masters, they naturally could not compare at all. However, in the realm of peak emperor stage, they had always been the authority. There were very few peak stage martial emperors who were a match for them in the intermediate permanent relics. Moreover, Kang Shinmu's words had ridiculed the entire thousand-winged snake clan. Wasn't this a little too arrogant? A mere dragon emperor brat dares to boast so shamelessly. The thousand-winged snake clan's elder was truly furious. The three of them did not think much of it and immediately launched an even stronger attack at Kang Shinmu. Previously, their attacks were only probing. But now, they really wanted to fight to the death with Kang Shinmu. In the battlefield, the power of lightning continued to condense and erupt, enveloping Kang Shinmu's entire black dragon body. Then, countless Earth-type spheres condensed rapidly and exploded, enveloping the space around Kang Shinmu's black dragon body. Kang Shinmu only defended. He did not counterattack at all. However, the layers of the canopy of despair he condensed became higher and higher. From the initial 9 layers, to the 10th layer, and then to the 11th layer, before long, under the ferocious attacks of the 3 elders, Kang Shinmu's canopy of despair had accumulated to the 33rd layer. In an instant it was released with 33 layers of supreme god defense. Although the 3 elders of the thousand-winged snake clan were very strong, they were completely helpless against Kang Shinmu, whose strength far exceeded the emperor stage. Kang Shinmu's 33 divine feathers had already accumulated to the strongest level. At this time, Kang Shinmu finally leisurely used the supreme god offensive dragon martial skill. Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might. When the 33 layers of Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might appeared, it was as if a demonic dragon had descended. 33 black demonic dragon shadows appeared in the isolated void and attacked the 3 elders of the thousand-winged snake clan. Initially, the power of each Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might was only equivalent to a level 2 transcendent god. However, as the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might absorbed the various powers in the surroundings, its attack power became stronger. Level 3 Transcendent God, Level 4 Transcendent God. The more the 3 elders attacked Kang Shinmu and the more they used their martial skills to defend against the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might, the more power the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might absorbed. It reached the peak of Level 5 Transcendent God. There were a total of 33 layers of Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might, and they kept attacking the 3 elders. When the attack of every Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might reached Level 4 Transcendent God, the 3 elders could no longer hold on. When the attack of Level 5 Transcendent God began, the 3 elders of the thousand-winged snake clan retreated in defeat. The bodies of the thousand-winged snakes that they had transformed into began to suffer injuries. Even their defensive martial skills could not withstand the attack of the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might. When they realized that the more they attacked the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might, the stronger the attack was, it was too late. The Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might had absorbed the power to its limit. The 33 layers of Dragon Soul shadows continued to attack with dark light beams. Terrifying dark light waves destroyed the bodies of the 3 elders of the thousand-winged snake clan. This process was rather long. However, when the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might was unleashed by Kang Shinmu, the 3 elders of the thousand-winged snake clan no longer had a chance to attack Kang Shinmu's body. The 33 Dragon Souls of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might protected Kang Shinmu entirely. The 33 Heavenly Divine Plume is too powerful. Kang Shinmu could not help but feel a little emotional. This brilliant transformation material was truly worthy of being bought at a high price. It was also worthy of being recommended by Moya. Although its effects could only be displayed to the fullest in battle, once it was used to its fullest potential, its effects would be incomparably terrifying. Just imagine, without the effect of this brilliant material, even if Kang Shinmu cultivated the Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might, he could only condense and release 1 Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might at one time. 1 Dragon Soul of Extreme Destructive Heavenly Might, even if it reached Level 5 Transcendent God, was not a threat to the three elders of the thousand-winged snake clan. However, Kang Shinmu could release 33 dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might at one time. This difference in quantity brought about a qualitative change in quantity. It was possible to withstand one attack, but what about 33 at the same time? This was equivalent to increasing the power of Kang Shinmu's attack by 33 times. The terrifying power finally made the three elders of the thousand-winged snake clan realize that something was wrong. When the three of them worked together, they could barely unleash some defensive martial skills to block the attack of the 33 dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might. However, their power was constantly being depleted. After all, they had not reached the level of a transcendent god, so their power was being depleted rather quickly. Previously, when they attacked Kang Shinmu crazily, they did not achieve anything. Instead, they almost depleted their power. At this moment, they finally could not hold on any longer. Chapter 54-38. Fighting against Kang Shinmu consumed most of the strength of the 3,000 winged serpent elders. Now, it was impossible for them to escape. They could only watch helplessly as they kept resisting the attacks from the 33 dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might. Then, they were pushed back again and again, and their defenses were broken again and again. Since the appearance of the dragon souls of extreme destructive heavenly might, the three of them had been losing ground. It seemed that they would not be able to hold on for long. What made them despair even more was that, outside this isolated region of space, three of their companions had already died in battle. After the three of them were held back by Kang Shinmu, the other three were no match for the others. Moya alone could take on one person. Yi Yin and Gu Xinyue joined forces and killed the concealer at the fastest speed. The remaining elder could only hold on for a short period of time under the attacks of Ran Ran and the other three. After that, the giant thousand-winged serpent body was directly bombarded into ashes. Ran Ran and the other three were not weak. Not to mention that Ran Ran had received a huge boost from Emperor Wa's inheritance test. This made their team even more indestructible. Ran Ran took the lead to resist the attacks of the opponents. Liang Xiao attacked fiercely with blood burst. There were also Xiao Bai and Xiao Yuhua. One of them was ice, and the other was fire. They could cause two different attributes to overlap, making it impossible for the opponents to resist. Therefore, Kang Shinmu's battle was the slowest to end. However, Kang Shinmu's battle was 1 against 3. The appearance of the dragon soul of extreme destructive heavenly might required time to accumulate 33 heavenly divine feathers. He had to wait for the brilliant material to accumulate enough energy. Therefore, it was normal for him to take a long time to finish off his opponents. However, there was one thing. The speed at which he finished off his opponents was about the same as when he was dealing with 3 people. Therefore, in terms of efficiency, Kang Shinmu's battle was quite efficient. 1 against 3. Moreover, these 3 were powerful elders of the thousand-winged snake clan. After all, these 3 were existences that had explored intermediate permanent remnants for a long time and possessed considerable experience. But when it came to Kang Shinmu beat him until his scalp went numb. At first, these 3 fellows thought that they could quickly deal with Kang Shinmu, but in the end, they discovered that Kang Shinmu's defense was extremely terrifying. When Kang Shinmu began his counterattack, they no longer had the strength to resist, and only death awaited them. Seeing that their 3 companions had been brutally killed outside of this isolated space, the 3 old men immediately felt as if their hearts had died. When they saw the others surrounding them, they knew that it would be difficult for the 3 of them to escape. However, they still had hope. Everyone, we admit defeat. Please let us leave. In the future, we promise that we will never step into any permanent ruins again. Is that okay? The 3 old men began to beg for mercy. Never stepping into the ruins again was better than losing his life. Their current achievements were already quite high. If they could escape from this place, then their future days would be very good. But unfortunately, it was impossible for Kang Xinmu to let them go. Each of them had 4 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. If he could plunder all of them, there would be a total of 12 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. Almost every one of Kang Xinmu's group would have 2 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. This opportunity could not be missed. Moreover, how could he let them leave here alive and go out to inform the others? Kang Xinmu did not want to meet the cultivators of the 1,000-winged snake clan in the future. The other party was already on guard against them. In that case, it would not be so easy to deal with them. Moreover, what if the other party felt that they were too strong and avoided them? It would not be so easy to get Emperor Envoi's aura. As for the cultivators of the 1,000-winged snake clan, Kang Xinmu did not have the slightest mercy. His previous experience had made him know clearly that in this world, the opposition between races was absolute. If he let his opponent go now, his opponent might turn around and hurt the other clansmen of the Dragon God clan. The extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul didn't stop attacking. As the other party begged for mercy, their fighting will became lower and lower, and it was even more impossible for them to resist Kang Xinmu's attack. Before long, the 3 of them could not resist anymore and were killed by Kang Xinmu easily. Devour. The aura of Emperor Enviwa was directly devoured by Kang Xinmu. In addition, the 3 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura on the corpses of the 3 cultivators of the 1,000-winged snake clan killed by Ran Ran and the others were also devoured by Kang Xinmu. Then, he released the aura to the others around him. So far, Kang Xinmu and the others had killed 2 groups of opponents in total. There were 10 people in total, and they had obtained 36 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. In addition to the inheritance of Emperor Enviwa, each of them had obtained 1 layer, except for Yi Yin. In total, they had obtained 43 layers. If they were divided evenly among 8 people, each of them could get 5 layers. At this moment, they had achieved a remarkable result. Together with the aura of Emperor Enviwa that they had obtained at the beginning of the battle, each of them had obtained 6 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. Among all the cultivators exploring this relic, they had obtained the most amount of Emperor Envoi's aura. If others knew that they had obtained so much Emperor Envoi's aura in such a short time, it would probably cause a sensation among the 5 clans. We obtained Emperor Envoi's aura so quickly. If this news gets out, I'm afraid many forces will join hands with us. Moya said softly, even the Demon God clan and the Ancient Phoenix clan may not join hands with us. Because we will be the only ones who can enter the relic. That's right. Yi Yin nodded and said cautiously, in the future, we must not let anyone see what we are doing and leave no one alive. Once the news that Kang Xinmu can devour Emperor Envoi's aura is leaked, we will become the target of public criticism. This was also one of the reasons why Kang Xinmu didn't want to leave anyone alive just now. Hearing this, the others all nodded in agreement. There was no doubt that it would be cruel to themselves to leave anyone alive. Next, their goal was very clear. According to the current pace, they should obtain 10 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura for each of them, and then explore the central region of the relic. At present, it seemed that their action was not a big problem. But soon, each of them had more than 6 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. This was already a suspicious amount. When the level of Emperor Envoi's aura became higher, others would be suspicious at the sight of her. At that time, their action would be really obstructed and difficult. However, when that time came, Jiang Shenwu would probably be faced with a dead end. When exploring the central region of the relic, Kang Xinmu didn't need others' help. His team should be enough. But when they really explored the central region of the relic, they might need some cannon fodder. As for the specific situation, they would have to wait and see. The news that Kang Xinmu could devour Emperor Envoi's aura could not be leaked all the time. The key was when it was leaked, which would be the most beneficial to them. It depended on what kind of harvest they could get in the central region of the relic. If the harvest was high enough, it would be enough to attract other dragon warriors of the Dragon God clan to hand over the aura of Emperor Nva in exchange for Kang Shinmu's harvest in the central region of the relic. Even the cultivators of the Demon God clan and the ancient Phoenix clan would exchange Emperor Nva's aura for resources. That's right. Kang Shinmu's idea was that after they got enough harvest in the central region of the relic, they could exchange these harvest for other cultivators' aura of Emperor Nva. This was a trading plan. Chapter 54-39. Kang Shinmu and the other 7 carefully moved forward in the Emperor Wa's inheritance relic. After killing the 6 experts of the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, they encountered several groups of explorers along the way. However, they were cultivators of the ancient Phoenix clan and the Demon God clan, so they did not provoke each other. Under normal circumstances, the ancient Phoenix clan and the Demon God clan had a relatively friendly relationship with the Dragon God clan. Unless there was some competition and conflict of interest at some special critical moment. But in the Emperor Wa's inheritance relic, the 3 major clans were definitely united. Therefore, Kang Shinmu was not interested in the ancient Phoenix clan and the Demon God clan, at least not for now. He was looking for the people of the Talisman Water clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan. Now, each of them had more than 60% of Emperor Wa's aura. Along the way, the cultivators of the Demon God clan and the ancient Phoenix clan were also curious about them. After all, they had never appeared in the Emperor Wa's inheritance relic before. Now that they suddenly appeared with more than 60% of Emperor Wa's aura, how could they not be suspicious? But it was useless for them to be suspicious. No matter how they guessed, they could not guess that Kang Shinmu and the others could devour the aura of Emperor Wa. Moreover, Kang Shinmu and the others also equally divided the aura of Emperor Wa that they devoured. On the surface, it seemed that they had experienced some of Emperor Wa's tests together. Although they were suspicious, they could not guess the truth at all. In Kang Shinmu's team, Yi Yin played the role of a scout, constantly exploring the Emperor Wa's inheritance relic. But he would not be too far away from Kang Shinmu and the others. Instead, he moved within the range of the 3 palaces. Once he saw a target that could be attacked, he would inform Kang Shinmu and the others. With the current combat strength of Kang Shinmu and the others, no one in the entire Emperor Wa's inheritance relic could be their match. Therefore, as long as they were cultivators of the Talisman Water clan and the Thousand-Winged Snake clan, they could attack. 7 days later, Kang Shinmu and the others encountered another group of 5 cultivators of the Talisman Water clan and 3 cultivators of the Thousand-Winged Snake clan. Without exception, these 8 people were all killed by Kang Shinmu and his companions, and the aura of Emperor Nva was taken from them. They were weaker than the previous 2 groups of opponents. They didn't even have the ability to resist. After being targeted by Kang Shinmu, they had no chance of escaping. Each of these 8 people had 3 to 5 layers of Emperor Nva's aura. There were a total of 31 levels. After being evenly distributed to everyone, the aura of Empress Nva had finally reached the 10th level. This was the amount of aura of Emperor Nva needed to be qualified to enter the central region of Emperor Nva's relics. After entering the relics of Emperor Nva's inheritance for less than 1 month, they had accomplished what it would take others at least a few years to do. Additionally, from then on, Kang Shinmu's movements were completely hidden. If Kang Shinmu, Emoya, and Yi Yin joined hands and hid themselves, nobody in the entire relic of Emperor Nva's inheritance could find them. In such a state, they started to search for the passageway that might lead to the central region in the entire legacy of Emperor Nva. So far, the entire exterior of the relic had basically been explored by all clans. The palaces were connected to each other. Each palace had several passageways that could lead to other palaces. Each palace would have a trial of Emperor Envoi's inheritance every once in a while. If one passed the trial, he or she could get one layer of Emperor Envoi's aura. In addition, there were several special passageways that led to unknown areas. No one could pass through them. What Kang Xinmu and the others were looking for was such a passageway. According to the records of the dragon gods, there is such a passageway in front of us, Moya said gently as she flew forward. No one has been able to enter this passageway. It should be a place that requires the 10th layer of Emperor Envoi's aura. Yi Yin guessed in a low voice, it should be the passageway leading to the central region of the relic. I wonder what is in the central region of the relic. Gu Xinhue had been looking forward to what they would encounter in the central region of the relic. She had been stuck at the 9th stage of the Dragon Emperor for a long time. It was not that she was unwilling to break through to the level of Super Shenron, but that her talent would be exhausted after she broke through to the level of Supreme God. Although she already knew that Kang Xinmu could help her break through the bottleneck, under such circumstances, she preferred to stay at the peak of the Dragon Emperor and fully unleash her value before considering breaking through. For example, if she broke through to the level of Emperor Envoi's inheritance, she would not be able to enter the relic. This would also be the last time she would explore such a relic while she was still at the stage of the Dragon Emperor. Once she reached the level of Super Shenron, it would not be so easy to explore the relic. This was because her opponents would be existences at the peak of Supreme God. It would take a long time for her to reach that level. Therefore, she was looking forward to exploring the relic of Emperor Envoi's inheritance this time. She hoped that she could gain enough things so that her future cultivation would be smoother. In front of her was a pitch-black passageway. Even Moya could not see clearly what was at the other end of the passageway. However, when they came to the entrance of the passageway, they clearly felt that the aura of Emperor Envoi on them seemed to have come to life, lingering around them. The aura of Emperor Envoi seemed to have condensed into long transparent snakes, leading them toward the passageway ahead. Let's go. Kang Xinmu took the lead to move forward. When they arrived here and there was no one else around, they no longer hid themselves. They all transformed into their divine dragon forms and flew into the passageway. As Kang Xinmu flew forward, the darkness in the passageway was gradually pushed aside. Soon, an extremely tall stone gate appeared in front of them at the end of the passageway. Only those who possessed the aura of Emperor Envoi above the 10th stage could reach this place. The 8 of them had already entered the middle of the relic. In front of the stone gate in front of them were 2 stone statues with human bodies and snake tails. These 2 stone statues seemed to be the guards of the stone gate, who had been guarding here for hundreds of millions of years. From the 2 stone statues, Kang Xinmu and the others felt the vicissitudes of time. I don't know how long this relic has existed, they could not help but have such a thought. The 2 stone statues were constantly surrounded by the intense aura of Emperor Envoi. The existence of Emperor Envoi's aura made them feel very clearly that this relic was the territory of Emperor Envoi's inheritance. Only those who possessed the aura of Emperor Envoi could pass through the entire relic. In other words, as long as they possessed enough aura of Emperor Envoi, they could come and go freely in the entire relic. Now, how do we open this stone gate? Chapter 54-40. On both sides of the stone gate, there were 2 stone statues with human bodies and snake tails, which had existed since ancient times. Anyway, no one else could come to this passage. Therefore, they started to observe the stone gate in front of it. Every one of the people brought by Kang Xinmu was capable of taking charge. Soon, they found that there were 3 small tactical formations behind each stone statue with a human body and a snake tail. Obviously, these 3 small tactical formations required them to inject energy into them. There were 6 small tactical formations in total. In other words, at least 6 people were needed to open the stone gate in front of them. This made Kang Xinmu feel lucky. After all, there were 8 people on his side. Otherwise, even if Emperor Nvua's aura was strong enough, they couldn't open the stone gate. Let's start. Kang Xinmu soon assigned them to inject spiritual qi into the small tactical formations. He didn't care about it and was in charge of one of the small tactical formations. There were 8 of them and 6 tactical formations in total. In other words, 2 of them didn't need to inject spiritual qi. Kang Xinmu asked Yi Yin and Emoya to guard the front and observe whether there were any abnormalities in the stone gate and the stone statues. On the other hand, he wanted them to preserve their strength so that they could deal with any accidents. After all, no one knew how much energy was needed to inject into the 6 small tactical formations to activate them. With the surging energy in his body, Kang Xinmu directly gathered the devouring power and injected it into the small tactical formations. Along the way, the consciousness of the demon god had been giving some advice to Kang Xinmu. Although the consciousness of the demon god didn't know much about the inheritance of Emperor Nvuo, it had dealt with Emperor Nvuo before. Therefore, it knew something about Emperor Nvuo's character. Emperor Nvuo advocates equality of all living beings. Therefore, there should be no distinction between races in this relic. As long as you have enough aura of Emperor Nvuo, you can get the inheritance. Although I don't know how to get the inheritance, it's always good to get more aura of Emperor Nvuo. For example, if you inject spiritual qi into the tactical formations of these 2 stone statues, you can also get a layer of aura of Emperor Nvuo. Kang Xinmu had understood this point. As expected, when they injected spiritual qi into the tactical formations of the 2 stone statues, the aura of Emperor Nvuo became stronger. As they activated all 6 tactical formations, each of them had a layer of aura of Emperor Nvuo. Although this layer of aura of Emperor Nvuo was not the key, it was always good to have more aura of Emperor Nvuo. After all, Emperor Nvuo's aura was the key to exploring the entire relic of Emperor Nvuo. The more aura of Emperor Nvuo were, the more he could do whatever he wanted in the inheritance. The more aura of Emperor Nvuo was, the more Dragon Clan and Emperor Nvuo of Emperor Nvuo clan's aura of Emperor Nvuo level. Kang Xinmu of Emperor Nvuo. As Kang Xin and Waran of the Emperor Nvuo was. As long as they had the aura of Emperor Nvuo, Dragon God Clan, Ancient Phoenix Clan, or Talisman Water Clan, Kang Xinmu could devour it and exchange it with something else. When the others couldn't enter the central part of the relic, Kang Xinmu offered such a condition. Obviously, many people would come to exchange with him. If he could collect more aura of Emperor Nvuo now, he would need less to exchange with others. At this moment, Kang Xinmu's team was the only team that could enter the central part of the relic. When the small tactical formations behind the 2 stone statues were activated, the stone gate in front of them finally started to quiver and open to both sides. All of them were ready to fight. Nobody knew what was behind the stone gate. It might be a trap, a safe passage, or a test waiting for them. All in all, it was always right to be vigilant. When the stone gate was opened, they looked ahead and found a spacious and long passage in front of them. Then, they all let out a sigh of relief. It seems that this Emperor Nvuo is not the kind of senior who likes to play pranks. Yi Yin smiled relaxedly. Kang Xinmu also said with a smile, "That's right. Everything in this relic seems to be quite logical. Nothing is messed up." It could be seen that Emperor Nvuo's character was so calm. I've explored many other relics, and there are more or less traps behind the stone gates of many relics. Mo pouted and said, "I think it has something to do with the character of the master who built the relic. It seems that this senior Emperor Nvuo is worthy of respect." There was a passage in front of them. Except for Emoya, the other 7 people all transformed into dragons and entered it. Emoya flew in the center. Although she didn't transform into a dragon, she was far more powerful than the others because she cultivated the force of nature. They didn't encounter any danger in the passage. Soon, they came to a palace along the passage. This palace looked no different from any of the palaces in the periphery of the relic. However, when they flew into the palace, a golden box suddenly appeared in the air at the center of the palace. When the golden box appeared, Kang Xinmu and the others all focused their minds. It seemed that there were treasures in this palace. Be careful. There may be a test at any time. Moya reminded them. Kang Xinmu also observed the surroundings with rapt attention. He found that when all of them entered the range of the palace, the two passages of the entire palace were finally closed. Countless crystal balls appeared on the walls around the palace. These crystal balls seeped through the walls as if they were illusory objects that could pass through walls. But when they reached the palace, they turned into solid, sparkling objects that emitted all kinds of light, dazzling the eyes of those who looked at them. Countless crystal balls appeared on the walls and then stopped moving. Now it's time for us to observe. There seems to be an explanation of the rules. Yi-In soon found that there seemed to be a line of small words engraved on the golden treasure chest in the center. Everyone went forward to observe it. When they finished reading the line of small words, they finally understood the rules of this test. Since a total of 8 people came to this palace, the crystal balls that appeared around them had a total of 8 colors. Next, when the test began, each of them could only find a crystal ball of one color and smash the crystal ball of the same color. If all the crystal balls were smashed correctly, they would pass the test. If someone smashed a crystal ball of a different color by mistake, the reward for passing the test would be halved if the first one was smashed. If 2 were smashed, the remaining reward would be halved again. If 3 crystal balls were smashed by mistake, the test would fail, and everyone's aura of Emperor Nviwa would be reduced. Chapter 54-41. Everyone looked at the rules. At first glance, they felt that it was quite simple. Gu Xinyue pondered and said, "There are a total of 8 crystal balls of different colors. Each of us will be assigned a color, and we just need to smash the corresponding color. It looks very simple." Ran said, "But the walls and ceiling around us are covered with crystal balls. It looks like there are at least 1,000 of them. We can't afford to make a single mistake, or the reward will be halved if we make a mistake." Liang Shao hung his head dejectedly. "If I had known, I would not have come in. This test cannot be so simple. The crystal balls are still now. Who knows if they will fly all over the place later." Xiao Bai covered her mouth and chuckled. "It's not difficult to fly all over the place. As long as the speed is not so fast that no one can react, we should be able to do it." Liang Shao looked embarrassed. "The most important thing is, after I transform into a dragon, I cannot distinguish the colors." His divine dragon legacy combat style was to use dragon blood to enhance his attack power. With this divine dragon legacy blood essence, once he transformed into a dragon, all he could see would be red and he would not be able to see any other colors. After he explained the situation, everyone was dumbfounded. That could be done? Look at this line of words. Kang Xinmu approached the golden treasure chest in the center and pointed at the words on it. All the crystal balls must be broken within the specified time. If the time is exceeded, the remaining crystal balls will be counted as broken by mistake. In other words, we have to break all the crystal balls within the specified time. We have to hurry. Yi-In pondered. That's right. Kang Xinmu became serious. I do not know how long the time is, but, since Liang Shao cannot see the colors after transforming into a dragon, we will do it this way. The 7 of us will first distribute the crystal balls of other colors and break them all. The remaining crystal balls of that color will all be given to Liang Shao. What do you think? If that was the case, it was obvious that everyone would need to break the crystal balls of their own color at a faster speed. They had to give Liang Shao time. Everyone thought about it and felt that there was no problem. They nodded in agreement. If this was an immature guild, they might have already started blaming Liang Xiao, but now, all 7 of them were Kang Xinmu's friends. They were all brought here by Kang Xinmu. Without Kang Xinmu, they would not have been able to enter this place. The central region of the relic required 10 layers of Emperor Envoi's aura. Generally speaking, it would take several years to accumulate the aura of Emperor Envoi. Therefore, it was good enough that he could enter. Even though Liang Xiao had dropped the ball a little, no one blamed him. Hearing Kang Xinmu's words, Liang Xiao felt like crying. This was too touching. Originally, he thought that his test would destroy the entire team. He didn't expect Kang Xinmu to come up with such a solution. Although this would increase the pressure on the rest of the team, there was still a way to solve it. Alright, let's do that. Ran thought for a moment. It shouldn't be a problem for her to break the crystal ball, so she nodded in agreement. Everyone felt that they had no problem with it, so they agreed. Otherwise, they would have said it in advance. Next, they began to assign the colors. Because Liang Xiao was ranked last, he could be given any color of the crystal ball. The others only needed to break the crystal balls of the other 7 colors first, and then give the rest to Liang Xiao. But now, no one knew how long the prescribed time was. According to the usual practice, this kind of test will not exceed the ability of the testee. Moya said gently, our ability is much higher than that of ordinary Dragon Emperor Envoi. Therefore, we should have more time. But we have to reserve some time for Liang Xiao. Therefore, each of us has to do our best. With our ability, it shouldn't be a problem. What she said was very clever. She twisted the whole team together. If it were another team, there might be some disagreements. If there were 2 different groups of people entering this palace to take this test, it would be really troublesome. If someone from one side dropped the ball, someone from the other side would definitely blame him, which would lead to a conflict. There was no doubt that in this test, the participants absolutely could not have any conflict with each other. Otherwise, if one of them broke a few crystal balls that didn't belong to him, everyone would be weakened by Emperor Envoi's aura. No one could be an exception. Therefore, Kang Xinmu felt lucky that he came here with his team. And this strengthened his determination, to never bring others to take part in the test of Emperor Envoi's inheritance relic. Otherwise, it would be easy to cause trouble. After everyone assigned the color of the crystal balls that they were responsible for, they separated and started to wait. As for Liang Xiao, he was standing beside the golden box with a face full of despair and tears, waiting for the others to break the crystal balls first. Obviously, they could feel that the surrounding crystal balls were quite hard. If Liang Xiao didn't transform into a dragon, he would never be able to break them. Therefore, they could only use the method that Kang Xinmu came up with. Soon, they found that the golden box in the center released a layer of light curtain. This layer of light curtain spread to the surroundings and soon covered the whole palace. After being touched by this layer of light curtain, all the crystal balls started to move at once. This also announced the start of the test. They started to act at once. Kang Xinmu directly transformed into a black divine dragon and started to travel in the palace. He was responsible for the black crystal balls. There were a lot of black crystal balls. In the dark palace, these crystal balls were invisible and hard to find. At least, they couldn't be seen clearly with the naked eye at all. However, Kang Xinmu's perception was too strong. He could distinguish the color of the black crystal balls with his perception. Liang Xiao didn't have this ability. Liang Xiao might be envious of him now. Kang Xinmu found a black crystal ball. He directly condensed a hexing dragon blast and smashed it. But at the same time, a red crystal ball floated by and was almost smashed by him. Once he hit the red crystal ball, it would be a mistake. And he couldn't make more than 2 such mistakes in the whole competition. If he wanted to get all the rewards, he couldn't make a single mistake. Everyone was fully focused as they searched for the crystal ball they were in charge of. Sure enough, it was as Liang Xiao had said. Over 1,000 crystal balls began to fly around the arena. In the beginning, the speed at which these crystal balls flew around was not too fast. But as time passed, these crystal balls flew faster and faster. It became more difficult to accurately attack the crystal ball they were responsible for. If they were even slightly careless, they would touch a crystal ball of a different color and make a mistake. Without a doubt, this was a test of everyone's observation skills, judgment, and accurate control of their strength. If there was even the slightest mistake, they would lose everything. Everyone was extremely nervous and focused on looking for and attacking the crystal balls. Only Liang Xiao stayed in the middle of the golden treasure chest. He was observing the hourglass that appeared on the golden treasure chest. If he didn't guess wrong, this hourglass represented the time limit of their test. Chapter 54-42. Gu Xinyue was in charge of the blue crystal balls. All the blue crystal balls were scattered all over the field, and their positions were constantly changing. She had to shatter the blue crystal ball without touching any of the other crystal balls. There were a total of 8 crystal balls of different colors in the field. This required a high level of control, but for a dragon martial artist at Gu Xinyue's level, it was not too much of a problem. At first, the speed of the crystal balls was not particularly fast. There were a total of 1,000 crystal balls in the field, and everyone kept shattering the crystal balls of different colors. Soon, a total of 200 crystal balls were gone. About 30 of each of the 7 crystal balls were shattered. At this time, the speed of the crystal balls in the field suddenly doubled. Everyone present had already felt this, and a hint of seriousness appeared in their eyes. Xiao Bai, Xiao Yuhua, ran. Everyone was even more focused, afraid that they would make a mistake. Even if it was just one mistake, everyone's reward would be reduced by half. This was a loss that they did not want to bear. Liang Xiao stared at the hourglass on the golden box. The hourglass has only moved 1/10, and there are already 200 crystal balls gone. It seems that the speed is still quite fast. Liang Xiao felt a little relieved, but soon he became nervous again. That's not right. Every time 200 crystal balls are shattered, the speed of the crystal balls will double. In the end, won't the whole field be flying everywhere? Am I supposed to chase after these crystal balls? Liang Xiao was dumbfounded. He looked at the 7 people in the field, apart from him, who kept shattering the crystal balls of different colors. He could not help but feel a little worried. The speed of the crystal balls was getting faster and faster. Would everyone be able to complete it successfully? Liang Xiao had been observing, and he realized that Moya and Kang Xinmu were undoubtedly the 2 fastest at shattering the crystal balls. According to the principle of average, there should be 125 crystal balls of each color in the field. Just now, Gu Xinyue and the others each shattered 20 to 25 crystal balls. However, Kang Xinmu and Moya had broken about 35 crystal balls. At this moment, when the speed of the crystal balls increased, the speed at which Kang Xinmu and Moya smashed the crystal balls didn't slow down at all. They still maintained their extreme speed. Soon, Kang Xinmu and Moya had both shattered 50 crystal balls. In the field, the number of black and white crystal balls decreased at the fastest speed. Kang Xinmu transformed into a black mystical dragon, while Moya transformed into a white-robed woman. They flew directly within the palace, occasionally flashing and appearing in the distance. They had already used their ability to travel through the void to chase after the crystal balls that were flying the fastest. As long as they aimed at the target and estimated the trajectory of the crystal ball, they could directly travel through the void and smash the crystal ball. But sometimes, the crystal ball of one's own color will come into contact with the crystal ball of another color. At that time, we can only wait for them to separate before we make our move. Kang Xinmu thought. This was a bit of a waste of time. But in reality, this was also a factor that could be solved. For example, if the target he was targeting was in contact with the crystal ball of another color, then what if he was targeting 3 targets at the same time? It was impossible for all 3 targets to have crystal balls of different colors next to them at the same time. Therefore, this would save time. Kang Xinmu had also noticed the void hourglass above the golden box in the center. It was obviously a time limit for them. They had to shatter all the crystal balls within the time limit. Soon, 400 crystal balls had been smashed in the arena. Kang Xinmu and Emoya had both shattered more than 70 crystal balls. As for the others, they had shattered about 50 of them. At this moment, the speed of the crystal balls had doubled. Not only that, but some of the crystal balls had even begun to travel through the void. Every crystal ball of a different color seems to have a different formation inscribed within it. The white crystal ball is a void travel formation. It can suddenly flash to another place while flying at high speed. The black crystal ball I am in charge of can create a space door. Any crystal ball that touches the space door will be transported to another place. In other words, the black crystal ball will affect the speed at which everyone shatters the crystal balls. Kang Xinmu knew that this test would not be so simple. It did not take their team much time to shatter the first batch of 200 crystal balls. The second batch of crystal balls did not take much time either. By the time the 400 crystal balls were shattered, less than 1/5 of the hourglass had passed. But after that, the difficulty instantly increased. Every crystal ball had a different effect. It was very troublesome for them to shatter the crystal balls. The white crystal ball Emoya was in charge of would suddenly flash. Sometimes, not only would she chase after the lost target, but the target would flash to another crystal ball. She would also tell the others to stop. Otherwise, if they accidentally shattered the white crystal ball, the situation would become very bad. The blue crystal ball can create void barriers. There are more and more void barriers in the field, and they can completely block our attacks. It's very troublesome. Gu Xinyue was also under a lot of pressure. She had to shatter all the blue crystal balls as soon as possible. Otherwise, as more and more void barriers appeared, it would become more and more troublesome for them to shatter the crystal balls. They had to go around the void barriers. This was another place where they would have to spend more time. The purple crystal ball will create a teleportation formation. Yi Yin was very careful now. The purple crystal ball he was in charge of would have a teleportation formation on it. Once it appeared, his attack would be transferred to another crystal ball. That way, his attack would be considered a mistake. Each purple crystal ball would be covered by the teleportation formation for about 1/3 of the time. He had to calculate this time well. He even had to observe several crystal balls at the same time so that he would not waste time attacking the crystal balls. At the same time, he would also be disturbed by other crystal balls. For example, the sudden appearance of the white crystal ball, the space door created by the black crystal ball, the space barrier created by the blue crystal ball. At this stage, the scene suddenly became chaotic. Everyone became incomparably solemn. Any mistake would lead to the failure of this test. If it was just to shatter the crystal balls of different colors at the beginning, there was no need for a dragon emperor to do this. Any dragon king or even a sky dragon saint dragon could do it. But now, his control over his power and his observation of the situation were definitely not something that any dragon martial artist below the Dragon Emperor realm could achieve.